Hey guys, welcome to part 4 of What If Naruto Was Trained by Hiruzen. If you enjoy the video then like, share and subscribe and also comment your thoughts as it inspires me to make more such videos, and remember to check out my playlist section for other interesting stories. So let's get started. Chapter 29, Doing the Wave Part 3. It was a foggy forested area that Anko chose as the meeting place. It gave really good cover and it would give Naruto a good view of where Gato was coming, where he was going, and any signs of an ambush. She was in a henge transformation, of the standard Kiri Oinin uniform, and Naruto had several clones like that as well. It would be an hour and a half before Gato appeared. Walking with him and flanking him from each side were two swordsmen. They had their hands on their blades, but it did not worry her. She stood at the ready just in case he did something stupid. Gato stepped forward and faced Anko. "So, you're the leader of these teams that are moving around my land? I didn't expect you to be a woman," Gato said and leered at her. Anko just rolled her eyes behind her henge. "You should not underestimate me just because I'm a woman. To answer your question, I am the head commander of those teams. I assume that you know why we are here," Anko said. "I heard it was because you're hunting a known criminal from your village. I assure you that there is not one here," Gato said. "Then you must take us for fools, Gato," Anko said. She pulled out a contract that she handed to Gato. The little man paled when he saw what it was. "Yes, we know that you have hired him for a job, but it does not matter to us. We want the location of Momoki Zabuza. You will hand him over immediately." "Now wait a minute. I paid a lot of money for his services, and I will not be cheated out of my investment," Gato exclaimed. "Perhaps you prefer that Kirigakure no Sato, hidden Vilde in the mist, gets involved with your operations. Technically that bridge has not been connected to the mainland. We rule the seas, and if you don't wish for some accidents to happen to certain ships like the Yamato, I would be a little more open to negotiations," Anko said. Gato gulped at her declaration. The Yamato was a ship owned by him that did some illegal shipping for him. If it was destroyed, it would be a lucrative loss. He growled at the woman before gathering himself. "Fine, you can have him. He costs too much anyway," Gato said. "A wise decision," Anko then handed him a piece of paper. "You will make sure that he gets to that location, and we will do the rest," she said. She made a hand motion before disappearing. Gato wasn't happy, but he didn't need Zabuza or his brat. He rubbed his caste before leaving with his men. When everyone was gone, a figure with a mask appeared. They looked in the direction of Gato before following the Oinin. XXX. Anko and Naruto returned to Tazuna's house. Anko stretched her muscles before dispelling the henge. "That was a load off. Well, did you notice anyone watching?" Anko asked Naruto. Naruto dispelled his clones, and the henge he was under. "Someone did enter the field, but they were using the mist as well. They were a lot better than me at staying hidden," Naruto said. "Then we can assume that it is this Oinin that Kakashi's brats told us about. Let's hope that our plan works," Anko said. They were being watched by said Oinin. After learning about what they planned, he decided to let his master know that Konoha sent back up and they were setting him up. He turned to leave, but only got a few yards before his world went dark. He didn't know where he was, and he felt the air leave his lungs. He was gasping for air, and felt the world go darker. As Anko and Naruto were about to enter the house, they heard a thud. The door opened to reveal Yakimo and Jakin, who were armed. "What's going on?" Anko demanded. "Someone tripped one of my genjutsu traps." "There is someone out there," Yakimo said. Anko nodded and made hand gestures to her team. They spread out and made their way carefully to the area where the thud was heard. They arrived to see a body. It was the Oinin that Kakashi told them about. He was out cold and not moving. Anko checked him and found him to be alive. Naruto removed the mask off his face, and Yakimo gasped as who it was revealed to be. Anko turned to her. "You know this guy?" Anko asked. "It's Haku. XXX." Both teams were sitting around the table. Their captive was still out cold and unmoving. They were discussing on what to do with him. "I say we kill him and be done with it," Sasuke said. "Really, that's your decision? Did you forget your last encounter with Zabuza? If he has kept this guy around for so long, then he is very important to him. You really want to bring the wrath of one of the members of the greatest swordsman group in Kiri?" Jacken asked with a mocking tone. Sasuke glared at him, but Jacken was not impressed. "We're not killing him, moron. We're going to use him and let him tell Zabuza that he has been betrayed. The problem we face is that he may tell Zabuza that our operation was a trick," Naruto said. "Hey, don't call Sasuke a moron," Sakura shouted. "Oh, low down the volume, damn it. We're right in front of you," Jacken shouted at her. "Okay, all of you shut up," Anko shouted, ending all arguments. Naruto is right, however. The plan has worked and this young man knows that Gato has betrayed them. We need to convince him that it is in his best interest to help us, Kakashi said. "I could use my Sharingan." "Nope, you're still not at 100% and I'm not taking care of you," Anko argued. That's when she noticed Yakimo. She was giving the boy a very long stare. "Do you have something to add, Yakimo?" The genjutsu user did not answer her, but she then turned to face Anko. "Sensei, please give me a chance to talk with him," Yakimo said. "What are you thinking, Yakimo?" she asked. I can't explain it. I don't think he has the soul of a cold-blooded killer. When I met him that day, I felt a gentle aura coming off him. I believe that I can get him to help us," Yakimo said with seriousness. Anko looked at her student and smiled. "You can use the room upstairs. Jacken, take him up there." Jacken nodded, and went to help his teammate. XXX. Yakimo took a deep breath before dispelling the genjutsu that held Haku. He took a giant breath, and quickly took a look at his surroundings. Despite his erratic breathing, he was able to take in everything. He saw that he tied up, and he was in a room. He saw Yakimo and her Konoha Hide forehead protector. He saw that she was allowing him to get himself in order, so he used this time gather himself. Once he was in control, he looked at Yakimo. The two stared at each other before he smiled. "I would have never expected you to be a shinobi. You seem too feminine and frail, but I guess you are shinobi material after all," Haku said. Yakimo smiled as well. "The same can be said of you. When we met, you were gentle. I couldn't believe that someone as gentle as you would be a ninja. Also, I didn't think that someone like you could be with someone like Zabuza," Yakimo countered. "It is not so hard to understand. Things in Kirigakure are not like your home in Konohagakure. People like me are hated because of abilities that we have been born with. With my ability, I killed my father. It was because I was different, both me and my mother were. It was Zabuza who gave me purpose, and I would die for him," Haku explained. Yakimo looked at him and saw that he was not lying to her. "It would be wrong of me to say that I understand you. Despite how things started for me, I was given another chance, and have made great friends and reconnected with my family," Yakimo said. They were quiet for a while before she spoke again. "What can I do to convince you to help us?" "I will never betray Zabuza," Haku said with conviction. "Even if it was the truth? You saw it yourself. Gato has betrayed you," Yakimo said. "His betrayal was because of you and your team's plans," he countered. "Perhaps, but it still doesn't mean that he wouldn't have betrayed you later on. Gato does not seem like the type of person who honors deals," Yakimo said with a smile. Her face suddenly turned serious. "I know you have witnessed what Gato's corruption has done. You should understand their pain. Yakimo then got on her knees and bowed to him. I am begging you, my Shining Knight, please help me. Haku stared at the knelling girl and sported a little blush on his face. Anko watched from the window, and could help but smile. Her little kunoichi would become the perfect interrogator, whether she accepted it or not. XXX. You sure did take your time, Haku. Zabuza said. I was careless, and one of the teams spotted me. I had to lose them before returning. Plus, I had to get more herbs for your injuries. Haku told him. Stop worrying about that, I am fully healed and ready. Now, what did you learn? Zabuza asked. Gato has betrayed us. I saw everything. After the head commander threatened his business, he sold us out. Gato is preparing us for them. Haku said. That little troll, he will regret crossing me. Zabuza growled. He looked at Haku and really bore into him. Is there anything else? It took a while for Haku to answer him. No, Zabuza-sama, there is nothing else. Haku said. Very well then, our target has changed. We move at dawn, so be prepared. Zabuza said. Haku nodded and left to prepare. Zabuza watched him as he left and smirked. XXX. Gato was standing among a bunch of thugs and killers. He had just hired these guys for the job that they were about to do. Okay, listen up, you guys are to head for that bridge and take everyone out. I'm going to show these people what happens when you cross me. Sorry Wareji, I want you two to bring Tazuna's daughter with me. I want to watch his face when she dies. Gato said with a smirk. Hey boss, what about those two ninja? Asked one of the henchmen. I'll give him up to those hunters. Maybe that'll teach that punk some respect. He said. So, you want to teach me about respect, do you? A voice said from everywhere. Mist began to fill the room from the windows, covering everyone. They were starting to get frightened and frantic. Gato was shaking like a leaf. Zabuza? He asked meekly. You thought that you could betray me? Very well, I will show you why I am called Kirigakure no Kaijin, Demon of the Mist. After those words, all hell broke loose. XXX. Kakashi and his team stood at the bridge with Tazuna and his crew. He was back at full strength, and was ready for a rematch against Zabuza. He wasn't too confident that Yakimo managed to convince the boy. She explained to them that he was very loyal to Zabuza. He would be prepared for Zabuza in case the boy tricked them. As he was standing guard, he heard someone approach. It turned out to be Naruto, or rather a clone. Everyone looked at him and waited for him to speak. What is it, Naruto? Kakashi asked. It's over. Gato is dead. He informed everyone. Everyone was shocked at the news. Are you sure about that? Kakashi asked. Come and see yourself, sensei. Naruto said. He ordered his team to stay and protect the bridge, while he went with Naruto. It didn't take them long to arrive to the area where a crowd gathered. Kakashi looked at the corpse and moved to check it. It was definitely Gato. He had his arms, legs and head severed. The cuts were perfect, done with a very large blade. He looked at the clone. Where is your team? He asked. We got someone to take us to Gato's base? The clone said. Kakashi nodded, and quickly made his way back to the bridge. XXX. Team Anko looked at the scene. It looked straight out of a horror movie. Blood was splattered everywhere, bodies were in two, and some of the bodies had needles sticking out of them. Anko saw that they weren't kill shots, but attacks meant to freeze their movements. They walked through the base, and just saw more of Zabuza's work. Is it wrong that I'm kind of wet from this? Anko asked. Her team looked at her with their usual expression. Really? This excites you? Jacken asked loudly. What? I haven't interrogated anyone in a while and I forgot my ika. Don't test me, boy. Anko spat. Why don't you just rape Kakashi? We know that you like him. Naruto said. Please, as if that one-eyed bastard knows what to do with this. Anko said, gesturing to her body. The two boys shook their heads. Hey, what's that? Yakimo asked. They made their way toward Gato office and saw a large mountain of money. They all looked at it in amazement. Anko saw a note and picked it up. Give this money to the people. I hope to see you again, my lady. Anko read. My lady, who could this be from? They're definitely not speaking about you. Naruto said to Anko. The comment got him drilled. As he laid on the floor, he noticed that Yakimo's cheeks were a little red. Hey Yakimo, are you okay? Your face is kind of red. Yakimo was suddenly the center of attention. Anko had a small smile. I'm guessing that this is from your shinning night. Anko asked with amusement. You were watching us? Yakimo exclaimed. The two boys looked on in confusion. XXX. Team Anko, Team Kakashi and Tazuna's family were having a huge dinner. The party from the village had continued on home. When Team Anko returned with the money and told them that it was for the village, everyone began to celebrate. They cheered, cried tears of joy, and the dark clouds lifted over the village. Tsunami created a huge dinner for the shinobi who helped their village. As they ate and drank, the sounds of bells reached their ears. It was the same bells that were set up as an alert system. The shinobi looked at each other before filing out of the house. When they were outside, they immediately went to their weapons. Standing in front of them were Zabuza and Haku. Chapter 30 On the road home. Team Kakashi and Team Anko readied themselves for a fight. Zabuza just looked at them with Haku at his side. He then chuckled at the two teams and relaxed his guard, confusing the two jonin. So you called for backup? The Barakamamba no Konoha, Konoha's Black Mamba, I've heard of you. Your team must have been the reason that Gato decided to betray me. It was a good plan, but Kirioinen don't really work in such large groups. Zabuza said. Why are you here, Zabuza? Kakashi asked. I just wanted to meet the team that turned my tool against me. Zabuza said. The way he said tool really didn't sit well with Yakimo. Excuse me, but Haku is not a tool. He is a person with feelings. How can you treat him as lowly as that? Yakimo growled. Ah, that explains a lot. Anyway, I am no longer your enemy, and I have taken my pay, so you don't need to worry anymore. Zabuza said. So you just came to tell us that you're leaving? Anko asked. Not really, Zabuza said. He then pushed Haku toward them. I have no use for an unloyal tool. He isn't registered as a shinobi. Maybe he can be of some use to you, as he certainly is no use to me. How dare you? Yakimo roared. He has done everything you asked of him. He's killed all for your ambition. He does one good thing and you just discard him like he's nothing. You are nothing but scum, a low-life who doesn't deserve such loyalty. Zabuza looked at the young woman with narrowed eyes. Anko stood in front of her student and reached for her blade. He just looked at them before scoffing at them. Whatever, I don't really care. Just take him with you, as he has clearly bonded with your student. Zabuza said. As he began to walk, Haku faced him. Zabuza-sama, I am sorry that I have failed you. I know that you will never forgive my actions, but know that I do thank you for allowing me to stand by your side. He said. Zabuza turned slightly at the boy. For now, you live for yourself. You can create your own life in Konoha. Zabuza said. With that, he vanished with the mist. The tense atmosphere was gone and everyone relaxed their guards. Yakimo walked up to Haku and stared at his back. I know that you probably blame me for this, and for that I'm sorry. She told him. While I am no longer of use to Zabuza-sama, I do not blame you for it. I saw how everyone is after we dealt with Gato. I regret betraying him, but he was nice enough to allow me to live my life. Haku said. He turned and faced the group. I hate to impose, but I was wondering if you would allow me to come with you on your way back to Konoha. Sure. Why not? If I didn't, your crush over there might just put us in one of her genjutsu. Anko said with a wicked grin. The two teens blushed and Yakimo was glaring at her sensei. Naruto and Jakin decided to pile on. Yakimo and Haku, sitting in a tree. Naruto sang. Kissing. Jakin sang. First comes love. Then comes marriage. And then comes Yakimo with a baby carriage. Anko, Jakin and Naruto sang. They all fell over with laughter, and Yakimo was red in the face. Their laughter died down when they noticed the ghostly image that she was giving off. Not even trying to apologize, her team took off as Yakimo took off after them. Kakashi just smiled at the antics of Anko's team. XXX. Team Kakashi and Team Anko with Haku stood with the villagers on the now completed bridge. They had to admit that it was a beautifully built bridge. As everyone said their goodbye and wished each other luck, Naruto was thinking about something. Hey old man, what are you going to call the bridge? Naruto asked. You know, I really don't know what I'm going to call it. Tazuna answered. Why don't you name it after me? Anko asked boastfully. I don't think Psycho Bitch Bridge is a flattering name. Jakin answered. He was rewarded with a foot to the face. We should name it after you guys. You gave us our hope back. Inari said to Naruto. While that would be awesome, maybe you guys should dedicate this bridge to your first hero. Naruto said. You mean Kaiza, don't you? Tazuna said. He was in silence for a while before he spoke again. The Kaiza Memorial Bridge, that doesn't sound bad. What do you guys think? He asked the villagers. Everyone seemed to like the idea of the name. Alright then, the Kaiza Memorial Bridge it is. Thanks for the name, kid. Naruto just nodded and saluted the group. The two teams and one passenger began their trek home, waving back to the village. They all wished the teams a safe trip. Unknown to everyone, Zabuza was watching them go as well. He watched as Haku walked with the Konoha teams. Live your own life, my dear friend. Zabuza whispered before vanishing for good. Haku turned to look around as he thought he heard something. He suddenly had a grin on his face, but didn't know why. He caught up to the Konoha teams and continued on his way to Konoha to begin his new life. XXX. The teams and their guest was another day out of Konoha. Everyone was in separate groups and was enjoying the company. Anko was hanging off Kakashi's back, reading his book with him. Kakashi didn't seem to mind that she was draped over him. In fact, he seems to enjoy it. In another group, Naruto, Jakin, Haku, Yakimo and Sai were talking and laughing. Yakimo would still get teased about her crush on Haku, which made the two blush. The final group was a group of two. Sakura was trying to get Sasuke's attention, but the last Uchiha wasn't paying attention to her. His eyes were focused on the members of Team Anko. He didn't like the fact that this team had come in and messed with his mission. He felt that he lost his chance at activating his eyes, the Sharingan. Instead of getting into a battle of death, he was forced to sit back and watch as this team did his job. He didn't like that they did not instantly respect him. Just like their sensei, they thought that they were above him. Well, he was about to show them that he was the best. He stood up and walked over to the group and stood before them. They all looked at him and wondered what he wanted. He faced Naruto and narrowed his eyes, making the blonde nervous. Anko and Kakashi looked up from their book. Can I help you, Sasuke? Naruto asked nervously. Fight me. Sasuke demanded. Excuse me? He asked in surprise. I said to fight me. Sasuke said with a tone. Naruto looked at his team and at his sensei. Anko stood and walked over to the group. She gave Sasuke a look before turning back to her student. If he wants a fight, then you should give it to him. In fact, let's make this into a taijutsu spar. What do you say, Kakashi? We can even bet on it. Anko said. What are the stakes? Kakashi asked. My boy wins, you take me to dinner and do 5D rank missions of my choosing. Your boy wins, I'll model something from Ika Ika. Anko said. That sounds fair. This will only be a taijutsu spar. No weapons, no jutsu, am I understood? Kakashi asked. Both boys nodded and prepared to spar. Everyone got a distance away as the two boys stretched. After a few seconds, both boys were ready. Kakashi stood between them. The first to 3 points will be declared the winner. Are you ready? He asked Naruto. The blonde nodded. Are you ready? He asked Sasuke. The black-haired boy nodded. Then begin, he declared. Sasuke attempted to catch Naruto off guard with a quick jab, but Naruto blocked it and stuck him at his side with a jab on his own. Sasuke winced and backed up. Point, Naruto, Kakashi said. His team cheered while Sakura complained. Sasuke rubbed the spot on his side and glared at Naruto. The two set up again and readied themselves. As soon as Kakashi gave the signal, Sasuke attempted to knock Naruto flat on his ass. The blonde dodged with amazing flexibility. He saw that Sasuke had overreached on a punch and made him pay with a spinning elbow to Sasuke's chest. The last Uchiha was sent to the ground, rubbing his chest in pain. Point, Naruto, Kakashi called out. Hey, that's not fair, Sakura exclaimed. Oh, would you please shut the hell up? What's he supposed to do, allow him to just hit him? Doesn't say much of his title of Rookie of the Year, does it? Jacken spat. Sakura wanted to say something, but she closed her mouth and huffed angrily. Sasuke was instantly on his feet and was breathing hard. He gave Naruto an hard look and readied himself. Naruto followed his movement and prepared himself. When Kakashi gave the signal, Naruto was the one who was the aggressor. Sasuke was blindsided by Naruto's speed. Naruto used a lot of feints to keep Sasuke occupied and ended the fight with a spin kick to Sasuke's jaw. Sasuke hit the ground with a thud. Point and match, Naruto, Kakashi said. Yeah, Team Anko is number 1. Jacken cheered. Sasuke was huffing and puffing. He was red in the face and angry as hell. Naruto was about to help Sasuke up when he saw him doing hand seals. When it ended in the tiger seal, Naruto moved quickly. As Sasuke took a deep breath, Naruto slammed his palm in Sasuke's chest. Sasuke instantly felt something wrong with his chakra as he dropped to his knees. He let out a couple of coughs before glaring up at Naruto. What did you do to me? Sasuke gasped out. That isn't a question that you should be asking. What was up with you attempting to use a katana on me? It was a spar, not a full-on battle, Naruto said with an edge. Sasuke glared at him, but he was now facing his sensei. Kakashi gave him a very disappointed look. I think that I will allow that seal that Naruto placed on your chest to stay there until we get home. Afterwards, we are going to have words about your attitude towards losing, Kakashi said. Sasuke looked down to see a seal on his chest, and it was glowing. He wanted to demand that the seal be removed, but the harsh look that Kakashi gave him shut him up. As Naruto was congratulated by his team, he gave the blonde a hard glare. This glare was not missed by Anko. The purple-haired Jonin did not like that glare. She would make sure that she would talk to Kakashi about it. She didn't need another problem added to his plate. XXX. Maidoshi sighed as she waited outside the office of the Kasuke. She didn't even know why she was even here. Orochimaru just took her from her training so that she could be one of his bodyguards. She didn't know why Manda dealt with the pale man. As she waited, she felt the presence of some people. She turned to see 3 teens and an adult. She was very curious about the red-haired boy who looked like he hadn't slept in days. They sat down and waited just like she was. She acted like she wasn't listening but wondered what they were talking about. So, you're finally getting a chance to become a Chunin, huh sis? Asked Kankuro. Yeah, but I wonder what our father wants. Is he really going to send Gaara to Konoha, especially with that guy there? Temari said. You will do nothing to stop me. That blonde will prove my existence, and nothing will stop me from feeding him to my sand. Gaara said with a warning tone. Hey, we're just concerned you know. This guy was able to hold you back for quite a while. Maybe you should let this go. Kankuro said. Excuse me, Maidoshi spoke, gaining their attention. I'm curious about the Konoha nin that you mentioned. Does he have spiky blonde hair, blue eyes, and 3 whisker marks on each cheek? That agitated the redhead who stood and faced Maidoshi. The girl could feel the killing intent coming from him, but she was not afraid of it. She just smiled at him, which amazed the others. So you did meet him. How did he look? Are you looking to stop me too? He asked in a warning voice. I don't really need to, she said while standing up. She faced him without fear. In fact, I'm telling you to leave him alone. He belongs to me. The cork on Gaara's gourd popped off and sand began to pour out. Maidoshi just smirked and her eyes flashed. Gaara froze, and was suddenly pierced with Maidoshi's sword. Blood sprayed out of his head and Gaara's eyes were wide with shock. Gaara gasped when he looked around him. He noticed that there was no blood, no sword and no death. The others looked at Gaara's face and saw fear. What did you? Gaara gasped out. You never want to mess with someone else's prey, and that blonde is my prey. Keep that in mind, because if you take him from me, that vision will become a reality very soon. Maidoshi said. Maidoshi, I think that will be enough. Everyone turned to see the Yondaime Hokage and Orochimaru step out of the office. Our business is over and we must return. He said. Yeah, it's about time. Maidoshi said. She turned back to Gaara with a smile. Don't forget, he's mine. Touch him and die. She walked away behind Orochimaru. Gaara growled at the retreating back of Maidoshi. He didn't know how, but he would make her pay her, and that blonde Konoha nin. Chapter 31 Prelude to the Chunin exams. Team Anko and Team Kakashi stood in front of the Hokage. They had just finished giving their reports and were waiting for what the Hokage had to say. Hiruzen was very impressed with both teams. Anko's team more than Kakashi's. The mission was handled without too much bloodshed on their part. He was a little troubled with Sasuke's behavior, and it showed that the boy needed to learn that his name would not get him everywhere. I am glad that the mission was done and that you all arrived back safely. However, I am displeased with the behavior of your team, Kakashi. A genin should not be questioning a jonin. Also, I am very displeased that the Rookie of the Year is so petty that he would attempt to use a jutsu just because he was bested by a shinobi that has a year's worth of experience on him. Hiruzen said. I apologize to you, and to Anko for the behavior of my student. I promise that it would not happen again. Kakashi said. I'm sure that it won't, but I am still going to make an example. Anko, your deal was for 5D ranks of your choosing. Hiruzen asked. I was thinking that it would be beneficial if they do the Capture Tora mission 5 times. It has done wonders for my team when it comes to tracking and subduing. Anko said with a smile. Her team snickered at that. Add 5 more times to that request as a punishment to the team. Hiruzen said. But Hokage-sama, that doesn't sound fair at all. Sakura argued. No, a lesson must be made regarding such behavior. This type of behavior could have gotten you and your team killed. I do not need pettiness among my shinobi. Hiruzen explained. He saw that Sasuke was not pleased with his decision. He released a little killer intent toward the boy. I would be careful at who you glare at, Sasuke. While others may cater to you, I do not. You are a shinobi under my command, and you will conduct yourself as a professional. Do I make myself clear? Yes, Hokage-sama. Sasuke said weakly. Do you have any objections, Kakashi? The Hokage asked. No, sir. We will accept this punishment with no complaints. Kakashi said. Good. Hiruzen said. He then faced Haku. When I received the message from Kakashi, I did a background check on Zabuza's claims. You weren't registered as a shinobi, so I have no problems in letting you stay. My only concern is your attachment with Zabuza, so you will be placed on probation for a period of 2 months. The Anbu will be watching you. I understand, Hokage-sama. Haku said. Do you wish to be a shinobi of this village, Haku? Hiruzen asked. If it isn't too much trouble, I would like to further my skills in medicine. Haku said. That can be arranged. I've heard that you are also skilled in combat, so you could become a combat medic if you choose to. Hiruzen said. If it is okay with you, Hokage-sama, the Kurama clan would like to sponsor his training. Yakimo said. I bet you would. Anko muttered with a smirk. Jacken and Naruto grunted in mirth. Yakimo glared at all of them. Hiruzen didn't even ask, as it was a Team Anko thing. Anyway, you are all dismissed with the exception of Haku. You may take a day or 2 off for your troubles. Hiruzen said. Sasuke was the first to leave, storming out of the office. Everyone else left, leaving Hiruzen alone with Haku. XXX. Jacken arrived at his apartment. As he entered, he noticed the seal that was near his door. It was glowing red, and he was instantly on edge. He pulled out his Korizagama and moved slowly into his home. He looked around for anyone in his home. You can calm down, Jacken. It's just me. A familiar voice said. Jacken sighed and lowered his guard. Why are you in my apartment, Kuma? Jacken asked. It's about Senichi. He said. Jacken's eyes suddenly narrowed and his demeanor got serious. What about him? Jacken asked. He's out of prison and out of Konoha. He's been stripped of his rank and had his technique sealed. I just thought that you should know. He said. Thanks, but you wasted your time. I don't get a damn about that man, and I'm glad that he's gone. Jacken said. Kuma just nodded and stood up. He made his way to the door. He paused for a second and turned his head slightly to look at Jacken. Will you be all right? He asked. You worry too much. I'll be fine. Jacken said. The Ambi member nodded and took his leave. Once the door closed, Jacken stood there in silence. While he did not give a damn about his failure of a father, somewhere deep inside him, he was a little hurt that he did not say goodbye, or at least broke into and trashed his apartment as a farewell. He sighed and went to get something to eat in his kitchen. As he entered, he noticed his mail on the counter. He went through it and stopped when he got a familiar letter. The letter was from that place in Atafutu Gai, Homely Woman Town. That meant that it was from Aiko. She probably received the letter that he sent her and replied. He opened the envelope and pulled the letter out. He opened it and read. Jacken. I was very glad that you wrote me back. I know that it might have been strange getting a letter from a woman you barely know, but you made such an impression on me that I wanted to keep in contact with you. Your sensei was a big help. Anyway, I'm glad that you're doing well. I actually heard about that mission you told me about. I heard that you went up against a dangerous man. I guess that it's the life of a shinobi. I am doing well. I won't go into details as I know that you don't respect that. However, I've taken a little vacation of sort. I will probably travel to Kuni land of hot water and enjoy my time off. After that, I guess it is back to work. Sorry, that sounds wrong. I just don't want you to have the impression that we are all like that. Anyway, I do hope that you continue to write to me. I really enjoyed the last letter, and I would like to learn more about your life. Until next time, Jacken. Aiko. Jacken didn't know why, but the letter brought a smile to his face. He didn't really know what Aiko's motives were, but he was happy that she cared. It made him regret talking bad about call girls. He put the letter down and went to get a piece of paper. He knew what he wanted to write down. He only hoped that she didn't freak out about it. XXX. Team Anko were waiting for their sensei to arrive. They found it kind of strange since she was always here first. At first, they thought that she was about to ambush them, but after 15 minutes, they knew that she wasn't around. She suddenly appeared before them. They all noticed the serious expression on her face. Okay guys, gather around. I have something important to talk to you about. Anko said. The team gathered and sat down. Anko sat on the ground with them. I'm not going to beat around the bush, Anko said as she pulled out 3 forms. She handed each of them one. They read it and were surprised by what it said. This is for the Chunin Senbatsu Shiken, Chunin selection exam, Yakimo said. That's right. I believe that you 3 are ready to take this test. I held back because you didn't have the stuff yet, Anko said. What do you mean? Asked Naruto. Do you remember our second C rank mission? Anko said. They all nodded and understood what she was talking about. I truly believe that you are ready to take the exams that will be held here in Konoha. This choice is strictly yours and I won't pressure you or allow you to pressure each other. This is your decision. If you believe that you are ready, then sign the form and give it to me. If you feel that you need more time, then take all the time you need. What if we choose to take it? Jacken asked. Then prepare for the most brutal training that I have ever put you through. These exams are no joke, and you can seriously die if you're not careful. I've grown attached to you brats, and I would be really bummed if you were killed, Anko said with a smile. The others smiled as well. I'll give you guys a free day so you can think about it. They nodded and left the training grounds to consider taking the exam. XXX. Maidoshi entered the cave where Garen was staying. As she entered, she noticed something was off. She suddenly smirked and pulled out her sword. The boulder to her right suddenly exploded, and several tendrils of hair shot right at her. She twisted out of the way of the attack and used her sword to block the kunai that attempted to stab her. She elbowed her attacker and kicked them away. She charged at the attacker, but had to stop when she was attacked from all angles by hair. Maidoshi danced out of harm's way. While in the air, she aimed her arm forward. Senajashu. Hidden shadow snake hands, Maidoshi called out. 4 snakes shot out and ensnared her victim. She pulled them forward with ease. She used the ceiling as a springboard and launched herself at the mid-air target. She drove her blade into them, gaining a gasp. Maidoshi then noticed that the person she believed to be Kodohime was actually a log. Katan, Kasumi and Bu no Jutsu. Fire release, mist blaze dance technique, Kadro called out. Maidoshi was covered by a clear mist. She noticed the smell and her eyes went wide. That's when the hidden explosive notes detonated. A huge explosion rocked the cave. As the smoke cleared, a burnt body hit the ground with a thud. Kadro and Kodohime came out of their respective hiding places to see what they had done. Suddenly there was clapping coming from behind them. They turned to see Maidoshi. Very good, you have improved greatly. You do good work, Garen, Maidoshi said, turning to her left. Garen just stood there with her arms folded. It wasn't easy, but they can hold their own against anyone now, Garen said. Continue the great work. I will need them should I face this one Konoha team at the exams, Maidoshi said. Are you admitting that there is someone out there that can beat you? Garen said. Maidoshi just smirked at her and left the cave. She had another month and a half before the exam began. XXX. Naruto stood in an abandoned field and faced a tree. He summoned a clone and held his arm out to him. The clone began to move his hand around his opened hand. He watched as a ball of chakra appeared. The clone dispelled and Naruto charged at the tree. He thrust the ball into the tree and watched as it grinded into the tree. When the technique was finally over, the tree had a hole in it. Naruto watched it with a smile on his face. That's not bad, a voice said. Naruto turned and faced Jiraiya. You still haven't mastered it, however. What are you talking about? The damage is similar to what you showed me, Naruto said. True, but the technique is supposed to be done one-handed, not with help. I'm not saying that you can't use the Rasengan in battle, but you haven't mastered the technique, Jiraiya explained. Well, it will have to do for now. I need to be prepared for the Chunin Senbatsu Shiken. Naruto said. Is that so? Anko is allowing you guys to take the exams? Drea asked. Yeah, and she's running us through the ringer. She wants us to be prepared for what's coming. Naruto said. She's right to do so. These exams are no joke. Just be careful, kid, and watch your team's back. Drea said. No problems, Arrow Senin, Pervy Sage. I'm going to ace this exam and become a Chunin. Naruto boasted with confidence. Drea just chuckled at him. XXX. Naruto decided to relax as he didn't want to get any injuries in the next 2 days. The Chunin Senbatsu Shiken was just around the corner and he wanted to be prepared both physically and mentally. As he walked along the streets, he saw something down an alleyway. He moved closer and was shocked to see Suna-san, shinobi. Not only were they Suna shinobi, but the same shinobi with their unstable brother. He looked on to see that one of them had Konohamaru by the front of his shirt. His two friends were scared, and Sakura was just standing there. He saw that Konohamaru was about to get punched and decided to intervene. Naruto used the Shunshin, body flicker to appear before the teenager. He hit a nerve in his hand, making him release Konohamaru. He then caught that wrist and twisted it. He pulled the large teen and spun him to ground, still holding him in a wrist lock. He made sure that he was facing the blonde, as he did not want to get hit from behind. He looked at Konohamaru briefly and faced the girl again. Are you alright, Konohamaru? Naruto asked. Yeah, Naruto-Nisan. Where did you come from? Konohamaru said. Ninja's secret? Naruto stated. He turned his attention to the girl. So we meet again. You guys just like to cause trouble, don't you? You do know that if your teammate here had struck the kid, then you would have been booted out of here. Messing with the Hokage's family isn't a smart move. Naruto explained. I told you to just let it go, didn't I? The girl said with a sigh. Aren't you going to help me? The boy exclaimed. Now, where's your other teammate? I know he's here somewhere. Naruto said. He got his wish when the red head appeared in a swirl of sand. The two stared at each other, ignoring everyone including Sasuke who jumped out of the tree. After an intense stare down, Naruto was the first to speak. I know that you're here for the Chunin Senbatsu Shiken, but your teammate here nearly got you kicked out of the village. I suggest that you keep a tighter leash on him. Naruto said. I will do just that. Now heed my message. I will kill you and prove my existence. I do not care about that other one that is after you. I will be the one who kills you. He said. Naruto was a little confused by that. Was there someone else that wanted him dead? He would need to talk to Anko about this. He released the teen and slowly made his way to Konohamaru and his friends. He never took his eyes off the redhead, and the same for him. He slowly led Konohamaru and his friends away. Gaara began to walk away with his siblings following. Sasuke looked at the two, and was not really happy. What was their issue? The redhead looked strong and he was making death threats toward Naruto. It also made Sasuke wonder how strong Naruto was. A little pissed at being ignored, Sasuke ran off to get some training in. He needed to be ready for the upcoming Chunin Senbatsu Shiken. XXXXX. Author's notes, hear the new chapter. Sorry that these updates are coming out so slow. I will try to speed them up. Anyway, enjoy the new chapter. P.S. I got word from a reviewer that a group who calls themselves Critics United is the reason behind this little thing with the site. Now, I don't mind critics. If you can criticize me in a positive way, then I listen, and I attempt to better my skills. However, most of the critics on this site are nothing but haters. I myself do not use a lot of lemons. Most of my stuff are tamed at best, but those that do lemons do put out some really great stories. Now, because this group has an issue with it, everyone else has to suffer. I really don't know what your issue is, Critics United, but maybe you can explain it to everyone so that they don't bash you. You've got to have a reason for what you're attempting to do, and we all would like to hear it. Chapter 32 The first stage, Escape from Ibiki. Team Anko walked up the side of the academy instead of entering through the doors. They really didn't have to, but they figured that they should enter the building like ninja. They arrived on the third floor and made their way toward the main room. They were surprised to see their sensei with a bunch of other sensei. Anko saw them and was shocked. Wow, I didn't expect you guys to reach up here so fast. Anko said. We entered the ninja way. Naruto said. Anko just smirked at them and then to the others. She presented her team like they were the best to the other jonin. Well, I wish you guys luck, but you don't really need it. Watch out for each other and do me proud. Anko said. Hi sensei. The said and entered the main room. Once inside, they picked a spot in the room so that they could see who comes in. They waited and watched as the teams came filing in. Team after team filed into the room and Yakimo narrowed her eyes. This is way too much competition. I was sure that the examiners would have had genjutsu traps laid out around the building. Yakimo said. It looks like someone may have spoiled the surprise. Jacken said. That's when they saw Team Guy enter the room. They saw them and gave them a nod. They nodded back and picked a spot. The next familiar team they saw was the Suna siblings. Gaara and Naruto locked eyes before they moved to a different spot of the room. It seems that he hasn't heeded my warning. I will have to do something about that. A female voice said. Naruto noticed her voice instantly and pulled out his staff. The end of it was right in her face. Some turned to see what the commotion was about. A dark chuckle escaped the female's lips before she removed the hood to reveal Maidoshi. It seems you recognized my voice. So, you're the one that Gaara told me about? I didn't figure you to hold a grudge. Naruto said. You think that I'm out to kill you? Oh, perish the thought, Naruto-kun. Maidoshi said. That got Naruto to blink owlishly at her. Why would I want to kill you when you are so interesting? That power of yours, I don't think I've been so overwhelmed in my life. I need you alive so that I can defeat that power of yours. Naruto didn't like the way she said that and narrowed his eyes at her. You don't know what you're asking for, Maidoshi. Naruto said seriously. Oh, I know what I want, Naruto-kun, and I will get it. Just survive long enough to have our rematch. I will be waiting. Maidoshi said and made her way past them to go to her team. Naruto relaxed a little as Yakimo and Jacken flanked him. I know that this sounds ridiculous, but I could have sworn that she was flirting with you. Jacken said. Yakimo looked at him with annoyance. That's what's going through your head. You're not worried at all about the fact that Maidoshi is here and may want Naruto's life? Let's not forget the psychotic redhead that also wants our teammate dead. Yakimo said. I'm not trying to sound insensitive, but it looked like she was flirting with him. You guys kind of agree with me, right? Jacken asked a couple of Taki genin. He has point. The way she kind of walked away wasn't just for show. The genin said. Jacken gave Yakimo a look who just sighed at him. Naruto chuckled at their antics until something got his attention. He turned to see a teenager with one of the genin who graduated 6 months ago. He was holding a card and was facing Sasuke. The reason this got him interested, because he heard his name called. Uzumaki Naruto, age 13, rank genin. He is a member of Team 13, teammates Korema Yakimo and Watanabe Jacken, Sensei Mitarashi Anko. They have quite a mission record with 50D rank mission, 3C rank mission, and 2 of them got bumped up to B rank. They have done a B rank mission and an A- rank mission. It says here that they were credited with Gato's removal. His Taijutsu ninjutsu and Bajutsu are really high while his Genjutsu is unknown. He is also very skilled in Fuinjutsu and Kekkai ninjutsu. On a special note, he was trained at an early age by the Sandaime Hokage and has been taught by the Gama Sennin, Toad Hermit, Rhea. Wow, this guy sounds like he's no joke. The teenager said. Team Anko narrowed their eyes at the boy. How in the hell did he get that information? Jacken whispered. Yeah, only a select few knows about my training with the old man or Arrow Sennin pervy sage, Naruto said. Also, to have such detail of your mission history is very suspicious. No genin should have access to that information. Yakimo added. What do you think we should do? Asked Naruto. They ignored the small fight that happened, which put Kabuto on the ground. There was a sudden explosion in front and everyone paid attention. When the smoke cleared, Team Anko was white as a sheet. In the front of the room was the head of the Konoha Gamen Jinmon Butai, Konoha Torture and Interrogation Force, Marino Ibiki. Holy shit, we are fucked. We are so fucked. Jacken muttered in fear. He didn't mutter it low enough as it caught the attention of one of Ibiki's people. He informed Ibiki who faced the team. Well now, if it isn't Team Anko. Ibiki said. He sensed some killer intent toward them, making them gulp in fear. You and I have some unfinished business. The team gulped and cursed their sensei for putting them in this mess. XXX. Anko sneezed as rubbed her nose as she sat in the Jonin lounge. Kakashi looked at her. You getting a cold? He asked. Nah, it's probably my brats. I usually sneeze when they curse my name or something. I wonder what I did now. She asked with confusion. Maybe it's because the examiner of the first stage is Ibiki. Asuma said with mirth. Oh, I forgot he was the first examiner. I knew I forgot to warn the guys. Anko said. She then shrugged it off. I shouldn't be too worried. Ibiki won't do anything too painful to them. I'm sure that they're fine. XXX. Naruto, Jacken and Yakimo couldn't wait for the first stage to be over. Each of them was watched by the examiners and Ibiki. Sometimes, the examiners were hitting them with a dose of killer intent. They each cursed their sensei for causing this. As they looked at the test, they each got the meaning of it within several minutes. While they could answer a few of the questions, but to get a good score, they would need to cheat. The question was how. Naruto went into his pocket when no one was looking. He pulled out a couple of pebbles and moved them around in his hand. He launched a pebble at an Ame genin, who stood and looked around the room with a glare. He caught the attention of the examiners and Naruto threw another pebble this time at an examiner. The man let out a string of curses and glared at the room. Naruto caught sight of Kiba and aimed his shot. With a flick of his wrist, he launched a pebble right to the side of his head. Kiba looked furious and saw a KUSA genin give him a dirty look. Assuming that it was him, Kiba launched himself at genin and a fight broke out. Team Anko moved quickly. Naruto noticed that one of the genin was actually a Chunin in disguise. He knew the guy as he had pranked the guy during one of Anko's missions. He quickly took his paper and switched it with his. Yakimo did the same, using a genjutsu on the nearest person to her, which happened to be Sakura. Jacken just copied Lee's answers, which he got from Tenten. They managed all this within the time it took the examiners to stop the fight. After the fight, and the time limit, Ibiki caught the room's attention. Okay, pencils down. It is time for the final question. Ibiki said. Before we begin, there are some rules. The first rule is that you must choose to answer the question or not. What kind of rule is that? Temari exclaimed. It means that if you do not answer the question, then your points go to 0. You fail and your team leaves with you. Ibiki said. This caused an outrage among the group. Ibiki ignored them and spoke again. Another rule, if you choose to take the question and get it wrong, then you will never get another shot at the Chunin Senbatsu Shiken, Chunin selection exam. What type of rule is that? You can't make that type of decision? Kiba shouted. That's where you're wrong. Inside this room I am the law. You either get with that, or you can leave. Those are your only two options. So, are you ready for the final question? Ibiki asked with a smile. He watched as several genin stood and walked out of room. He saw that a few looked ready to quit, but what really caught his attention was Anko's team acting so relaxed. He glared at them and wondered what was so relaxing. You three, getting Team Anko's attention. You seem pretty relaxed for such a huge decision hanging over your heads. I'm not really relaxed, but I've been taught not to show your hand. Besides, I'm not backing down just because you're in charge. Naruto said. Yeah, if becoming a Chunin was easy then we wouldn't need such test. So bring on this final question. I don't care if I get it wrong or not. Jacken said. As Chunin, we will have to make such decisions, and we will have to live with it. Wrong or right, I will stand by my decisions and my teammates. Yakimo said. Ibiki looked at this team and had to admit that Anko had a wonderful team of genin. He looked at the others. Does anyone else feel the way that this team feels? Ibiki asked. Only a few looked convinced by what this team said. Very well, the first stage of Chunin Senbatsu Shiken is now over. Say what now? What about the 10th question? Jacken asked. There was never a 10th question. Ibiki answered. Everyone looked at him and the examiners with shock. Are you telling us that you mentally scarred us, and it was for nothing? Sakura asked. Yes. Ibiki answered. You are a sick son of a bitch. Naruto said, getting the agreement of most of the room. Ibiki ignored them and began to speak. The object of this test was to see how well you can gather information. Did you really believe that no one would notice the use of dojutsu animals or puppets? Those who were eliminated would have been killed on the spot by how bad they were getting their information. The 10th question was just to see if you have the stuff to be Chunin. As a Chunin, you will be given more difficult mission. Some of those missions, your life would be in great danger, and you have to make a decision. Ibiki suddenly removed his bandana, allow everyone to see his man scars and holes in his head. Depend on your choice, you make it in the service of your village. Never forget that. He said and placed his bandana back on. As he was about to speak again, something coming toward the window caught his attention. It smashed through one of the windows and stopped in mid-air. It began to unwrap itself. Two kunai hit the ceiling, and a banner appeared. On it were the words the proctor of the second stage, the sexy and single Mitarashi Anko. The purple-haired ninja stood and gave everyone a menacing stare. This isn't the time to be cheering. You little bastards belong to me now. Anko shouted. Everyone looked at her like she was crazy. Suddenly Anko replaced herself with a chair as a staff, a sickle, and a few shuriken came flying at her. She stood on one of the tables and grinned at the three genin who attempted to kill her. "AW, are you guys mad at me? You could have warned us that he was the examiner of the first stage." Jacken roared. "You're still alive, aren't you?" Anko asked. Her students just glared at her. She chuckled until her eyes landed on Maidoshi. The young girl gave her a wave and smile, which made Anko frown. Before she could do anything, she was interrupted by Ibiki. "You're early again," Ibiki said with a frown. Anko said with a shrug. She looked around, and noticed quite a lot of people. "You allowed 27 teams to pass? There are quite a few strong ones in here," Ibiki said. "Is that so? Well then, let's see if they are as strong as you say," Anko said with a sadistic grin. She faced the group of hopeful Chunin. "Alright maggots, follow me to your next test. If you think that Ibiki was scary, you're going to love what I have in store for you." Everyone was put off by the chuckling of the deranged-looking Jonin, with the exception of her team and Maidoshi. Chapter 33 The Second Stage, Into the Forest of Death. Ibiki chuckled as Anko led the teams out of the room. He was going to let the Jonin in the lounge who passed and who failed. As he made his way out, he saw a piece of paper under one of the exam papers. Curious, he made his way over and picked the paper up. He unfolded it and read the message. "Ibiki-san. Please check on Yakushi Kabuto. He has information that he should not have. He may be a spy, or you may have a leak. He looked at the note and back at the spot where he found it. That was where one of Anko's brats sat. This was a serious accusation, and he needed to check up on it. He quickly left to go and speak with the Hokage. XXX. Anko stood in front of the Chunin hopeful and faced all of them with a smile. She had secretly sent a note to the Hokage about Maidoshi's involvement in the exams. That could only mean that Orochimaru was somewhere in the village. She couldn't search for him now, but she would soon. Okay maggots, welcome to the second part of the Chunin Senbatsu Shiken, Chunin selection exams. I like to call this place my team's home away from home. This is the Daionjuin and Shoujo, 44th training ground, or as I like to call it the Shi no Mori Forest of Death. Anko began to speak. Why do call it that? Asked Ino. You'll soon find out why. I would like to keep that a surprise for you all to see. Anko said with a vicious grin. As she was about to continue, Sakura decided to speak up. Wait a minute. You said that this is your team's training ground? She asked. So? Anko asked. Does that give you a huge advantage? That's cheating. Sakura exclaimed. Team Anko watched as Anko looked at the girl with a glare. Anko was not happy and walked up to her. Sakura gulped under her stare and felt weak in the knees. Do you realize how much of an embarrassment you are right now? You're complaining about an unfair advantage? We're shinobi. We live a life of unfair advantages. Hell, we strive on unfair advantages. You are a kunoichi of Konohagakure, so act like it. If you're so worried about it, then leave. You are a disgrace, acting like a child. Anko stated loudly. Sakura seemed to shrink into herself, and the looks she was getting from the others only embarrassed her further. Anko straightened up and looked at everyone else. Does anyone else have a problem with my team's advantage? Are there any more bitches within this group of wannabe Chunin? No ma'am. Everyone exclaimed. With a final glare to Sakura, Anko walked back to the front of the group. She faced everyone again. Now, I will explain the point of this exam. Anko pulled out 2 scrolls, a white one and a brown one. In my left hand, I hold a scroll with the label Heaven. In my right hand, I hold a scroll with the label Earth. Each of you will get a scroll, one with Heaven or one with Earth. Your objective is to gain both scrolls and make your way to the tower that is at the center of this training ground. Anko said. So it's like a capture the flag type of mission? Asked Maidoshi. Something like that. Since half of you will be holding the Heaven scroll, and the other half will be holding Earth, you will have to fight each other to get it. As Chunin, you will have to get information by force and return it back to your village while others are after you. If you can't, then you will die. Which reminds me, Anko made a motion and several Chunin who had papers. These are waivers that you may choose to sign. This dissolved Konoha from any deaths that happen within the forest. Anko explained. Some of them looked a little worried about that, but no one left. So how long is this exam? Asked Jacken. The exam ends in 5 days. Anko informed them. 5 days. What about food? Exclaimed Choji. There are a lot of animals who can hunt and eat. There are also some plants that are edible. Anko said offhandedly. Do you have any advice? Asked Yakimo. Just one. Don't die. She exclaimed. XXX. Hiruzen couldn't believe the trouble that was brewing in just one day. He had just gotten Anko's message about Maidoshi. He still did not have too much info about the girl, but he could do nothing about her. Odokichi, while new, had permission to compete in the Chunin Senbatsu Shiken. To pull her out to question her would cause all types of internal problems for Konohagakure and Hai no Kuni. That was something he was not willing to get into. As long as the exams were going on, she was protected. Then Ibiki came in and told him about an accusation that was made by one of the Chunin hopefuls. Apparently, there was a leak within his office. A genin was able to gain information that he was not supposed to have. He checked the name Yakushi Kabuto and did find it suspicious that he had participated in 7 exams and always forfeited after the second exam. Sure, he could have gotten the information after all those exams, but that just couldn't be. He launched an investigation into the boy and hoped that he wasn't a spy. He released a sigh and leaned back in his chair. He wondered what else could happen today. He heard a knock on his door and gave them permission to enter. He cursed mentally as he saw his rival enter his office. He could only wonder what Danzo wanted now. "Hello, old friend. What can I do for you today?" Hiruzen asked. "I heard that Orochimaru might be within the village," Danzo said. "Nothing is confirmed, but I have been informed of that girl participating in the exams," Hiruzen said. "Are you sure that it is wise to allow her to continue? Her objective includes your student who is also in the exams," Danzo said. "Naruto can handle himself. I also trust his team to watch his back as we did during the wars," Hiruzen said. "You are not handling this seriously, Hiruzen. I also thought it was idiotic that we allow other villages into ours, but you are risking the life of our weapon and placing your trust in that woman," Danzo said. "I have warned you before, Danzo. He is not a weapon, and you will never refer to him as such in my presence again. Also, I trust Anko much more than you do. She has raised this team to be one of my best. I dare say that they can even surpass my team without falling to the events that led to 2 of them leaving. I cannot touch Maidoshi because she protected by the guidelines that make up the exams. Until they are over, I can do little," Hiruzen said. "I still see that you are too soft, Hiruzen," Danzo said. "And yet, I was chosen and not you. Do you wish to know why?" Hiruzen asked. He watched as Danzo's lone eye narrowed. He just turned and left the office without another word. He walked out of the tower and made his way to his home. Once home, he tapped his cane and a shinobi appeared. "Danzo-sama," the shinobi said and bowed. "I want you to send a team into the Sho no Mori and bring a girl named Maidoshi here. Capture her team as well, including the Jonin sensei," Danzo ordered. The shinobi bowed and vanished. Danzo just sat and waited. If Hiruzen wasn't going to do anything, then he would, as it was to protect the great tree that is Konoha. XXX. Naruto, Jacken, and Yakimo were making their way to a familiar place within the forest. It was somewhere that they could rest and plan their opening move. As they moved along, Naruto suddenly felt something. He turned to his team and did some signs. "We got a tail. 3 Kunoichi Takagakure symbol, they move like a complete unit. Dressed like Anbu, strapped with weapons." Naruto signed. "They must be thinking about taking our advantage away. What's the plan?" Jacken signed. "We lure them into a trap. I can use my clone technique and a genjutsu to tire them," Yakimo said. "Let's lead them to that area where those spiders are. You know how they are." Naruto signed. "That's kind of cruel, isn't it?" Yakimo signed. "Don't worry about that. We aren't going to let the spiders kill them. So are we in agreement?" Jacken asked. They nodded and began to make their way to the spider's nest. They were followed by the 3 Takagakure Kunoichi. Yakimo did some seals and did her jutsu. Oboro Bunshin no Jutsu. Hei's clone technique, 3 clones appeared that looked like them. The originals ducked and covered, while the clones went forward. They watched as the 3 Takagakure girls fly past them. They waited a while before following them. Yakimo kept up the technique as they followed the 3. They reached the spider's nest, but they would not know about it as Yakimo did another set of seal. Magen Kokonai Arazu no Jutsu. Demonic illusion, false surroundings technique. Instead of the nest, the area looked like a simple open field. When Yakimo's clones landed, that's when the 3 attacked. Katan Renkei Karura. Fire release cooperation technique. Garuda, they all spat out streams of fire that combined and formed a dragon. The dragon crashed down on the clones, burning the area. The three ended the jutsu and looked over the area. The one with silver gray hair had an evil smirk. I guess that they weren't as tough as we thought, she said with amusement. The other two chuckled with her. That's when the fire died down to reveal that Team Anko was not harmed. They were shocked and confused until a long and sticky substance shot through one of Team Anko and wrapped around the silver-haired kunoichi. She screamed as she was pulled toward the ground. The other two made a move to help before they were attacked as well. They were gripped with fear when they realized that they were being attacked by some big damn spiders. Yakimo dropped her genjutsu and clone technique to show them where they were. They screamed some more as some more spiders were coming out of the burning nest. Hey, you guys look like you need some help, Jaken's voice shouted. They looked up to see the team unharmed. You bastards. How did you know? Shouted the silver-haired kunoichi. I don't think we'll tell you. How about you tell us what type of scroll you have? Jaken asked. Screw you, shouted the brunette. Have it your way, but you should know that the web that they are wrapping you with will suffocate you. Once you're no longer breathing, they will eat you. Not to mention the venom that is running through your system when they bit you. You must be feeling pretty tired, right? Naruto informed them. They were feeling the venom of the spider and were losing consciousness. Please. Please. Help. Us. One of them begged. What's your scroll? Demanded Jaken. Heaven. The silver-haired kunoichi said. With that said, Naruto did some seals. Doton Yomi Numa. Earth release, swamp of the underworld, Naruto said. He created a muddy bog, which made some of the spiders sink into the ground. Each team member jumped down and used the Swimmin' Hoko no Jeo, water surface walking practice to stay on top of the muddy water. They grabbed the kunoichi before fleeing the area quickly. They knew from experience that the spiders would be pissed that they lost their lunch. They got pretty far before stopped to rest. The three kunoichi were out cold, the effects of the venom taking effect. They cut what webbing was on them and searched them from the scroll. They found it, and they were all smiles. We are the greatest. We got the scroll we needed. Now we can head to the tower, Naruto said. I think that we should wait until nightfall before we do that. It would be easier to stay hidden at night, Jaken suggested. We can also use the forest as cover as we move. I agree with Jaken on this, Yakimo added. Hey, I'm not going to argue. Jaken is the hunter of the group, Naruto said in agreement. Okay, let's get these guys to the river and hide them. They should wake up by nightfall, and we would be long gone by then, Jaken said. They picked them up before making their way toward the river. XXX. Anko was practicing her sword movements. She didn't want to let up on her sword training as she was advancing in the Odori Konoha Ryu dancing tree leaf style. Right now, she was mastering the Yanagi, willow technique, and was getting pretty good at it. She was preparing to do it again when someone appeared before her. She turned and recognized the guy as Mazoku. Anko, you need to come and see this. We have a situation, Mazoku said with urgency. Anko sheathed her sword and followed him. She arrived where Izumo and Kotetsu was waiting. She walked up to them and waited. So, what's up, guys? The two moved out of the way and showed her what they found. She looked at the bodies with shock. Izumo showed her some files. We checked it out. This is the team from Kusagakure. What's wrong with this picture is that this team is supposed to be in the forest. I saw them to the gate myself, Izumo reported. Anko didn't answer him and continued to watch the bodies that had no faces on them. She knew of only one person who knew how to do such a thing. She might have been a changed person since becoming a Jonin instructor, but that man was still the bane of her existence. She still had that drive to make him pay. Anko turned to Mazoku. I want you to get to the Sandaime and tell him that Orochimaru is in Konoha disguised as a Kaiguase genin. Go now, Anko ordered, and Mazoku left via Shunshin. She turned to Izumo and Kotetsu. I need you to get 2 squads of the Anbu and send them into the forest after me. They nodded and were gone. Anko turned toward the forest. I don't know why you're here, but you won't be leaving here unhurt. It's time that we settle things, Orochimaru. XXX. The Konoha Genin's head hit the ground with a thud. Maidoshi flicked the blood off her sword before sealing it. Konoha walked over to her, as did Keitaro, who was wearing the face of one of the genin that they just killed. In Maidoshi's hand was an earth scroll. She was about to pocket it and make her way to the tower when she felt something in the air. You can come out, Maidoshi said. She waited as 5 men in masks surrounded the group. Maidoshi looked at them and smiled. Well now, what do we have here? XXXXX. Chapter 34, Death by Sound. Maidoshi, Keitaro and Konoha looked at the 4 men that surrounded them. Maidoshi held a small smirk as she was curious as to who they were and why they were here. She could tell that they were not regular Konoha shinobi. They seemed to have a purpose for her and her team. So, what can we do for you gentlemen today? Maidoshi said. You are to disarm yourselves and come with us. The man said. She watched as they reached for their weapons. And if I refuse? Maidoshi asked. You will be coming with us. It depends on your how. The man said. Konoha and Keitaro looked ready to deal with them, but Maidoshi held her hand up. No, you guys make your way back to our camp with the scroll. I will deal with them, she said. The 2 looked ready to refuse, but they started to feel the air shift. They got scared and made their way out of the area. One of the shinobi attempted to stop them, but suddenly found their head removed from their body. The others 3 removed their weapons and faced the young woman. She looked at them with a bored look. I really don't know why you Konoha nins are here. I don't really care who you really work for because I know it isn't the Hokage. However, you are attempting to stop me from getting what I want, and I will not allow that to happen. It's time I show you what type of an apex predator I am. Maidoshi said and unleashed her killing intent, freezing them in their tracks with just a glance. 2 of them were able to get out of her gaze as the 3rd was run through their chest by Maidoshi's hand. She threw the body away as she watched the other 2 began to do hand seals. Katan Ryuka no Jutsu. Fire release, dragon fire technique. Both were surrounded by fire and several flames that took the shape of dragons attacked Maidoshi. She skillfully dodged and avoided the attack and rushed at the 2 with a smile. Disengaging their techniques, they launched shuriken at her. Maidoshi stopped and held her arms out. Senai Tajashu. Many hidden shadow snake hands, she called out calmly, and an army of snakes shot forward. Some caught the shuriken, while the rest went at the 2 shinobi. They cut through the snakes with their tanto, but this proved to be a mistake. Maidoshi appeared behind from within the army of snakes, and wrapped around one of the men. She quickly snapped their neck and at the same time pulled out a kunai and stabbed it into their forehead. She stood up straight and faced the last man. She was impressed that the man was not running away and had his tanto in an attack position. Maidoshi summoned a snake from out of her arm and held it. It then transformed into a sword. The blade was beautiful with red and yellow hilt. It gleamed in the moonlight as Maidoshi held it above her head. She brought it to her side and with a flick of her wrist, the blade began to move like a snake, rippling at a high speed. She smirked at him and readied herself to attack. The man dug in as Maidoshi's charged at him. Through the night sky, no scream was heard, only the tearing of flesh. XXX. Garen walked around the village without a care. She wasn't scouting or anything, as it would be very soon when the village would be burnt to the ground. She was trying to remain casual, but it was beginning to become very hard with her tail on her. She noticed it about 5 minutes when she stepped outside of her hotel room. She didn't know why they were following her, but if they thought that she was going down without a fight, she decided to stop playing this cat and mouse game. She turned into an alley and made her way to a building that was abandoned. She walked into the building and made her way upstairs. When she arrived on the second floor, she found herself confronted with her tail. She looked at them with a sly smile. "So, you've decided to stop playing as well? Well boys, what do you want from me?" Garen asked. "Under orders from our lord, you are to come with us," the leader said, and they removed their blades. "On whose orders? Certainly not the Sandaime Hokage," Garen mocked. They didn't say anything and rushed Garen. Garen just stood waiting as two blades came down on her. She didn't cry out, only grinned at the two as she broke into crystal particles. The two were shocked by this, and they were then suddenly attacked by multiple projectiles that came from under them. They were both filled with holes and fell to the ground dead. Under the floor, Garen waited until she saw small drops of blood come from above. She smirked and dispelled a green snowflake-looking mirror. She watched out of the building, and made her way back to speak with Orochimaru. XXX. Anko search lead her deep within the forest. She managed to pick up her sensei's trail and followed it. It wasn't long until she caught up with him. She caught the man's attention and snarled at the smirk that was on his face. Well, my dear Anko, you have grown into a beautiful young woman," Orochimaru said mockingly. Anko calmed herself and glared at him. "Orochimaru of the Densetsu no Sannin, a legendary 3 ninja, you are wanted for crimes against Konoha. Come peacefully, or I will have to use force," Anko said. "Why so cold, Anko? No kind words for your dear sensei?" Orochimaru asked with a little disappointment. Anko didn't say anything and pulled out her jong. She got into a fighting stance and waited. Orochimaru just chuckled at her. "So you took up the blade? Are you any good with it?" Anko disappeared and reappeared, her blade just missing Orochimaru's forehead. She spun around and attempted to slice Orochimaru in two. Orochimaru flipped out of the way. Anko dug her sword into the large branch and kicked up some pieces, which was thrown in Orochimaru's face. Orochimaru moved to his left to avoid the stab to his throat. Anko pulled it out and got some distance from him. She did some hand seals and took a deep breath. Katan Hosenko no Jutsu Fire Release, Phoenix Sage Fire Technique. Anko shouted, and spat out several medium-sized fireballs at him. Orochimaru circled the tree like a snake while dodging the fireballs. He then launched a snake at Anko, which wrapped around her neck, and began to squeeze. She gasped before dissolving into water. Surprised, he was hit, but a torrent of water that came from his left. He landed on a branch with a thud. He quickly moved as Anko appeared and drove the blade where he just was. Anko continued her assault on Orochimaru, who just dodged her attacks. She watched as he ducked behind a tree. She hit the tree with the flat of the blade. It bent, and managed to catch a bit of Orochimaru if the small bit of blood was any indication. She pulled her blade back and thrust it into the tree. She heard the sound of her blade piercing through flesh. She waited for a while when 4 snakes came from behind the tree, each having a blade sticking out of their mouths. Anko quickly pulled her blade free and began to parry the blades. With quick movements, she served the heads of snakes, and was at the ready. She spun and deflected a kunai, but could not block the kick to her gut. She slid across the branch before coming to a stop. She faced her former sensei and glared at the mocking smile on his face. She took a deep breath, and began to wave her sword around. Orochimaru was amused until he saw multiple images of her blade. He waited and raised his arm. He grabbed Anko's wrist and flipped her onto her back. Konoha Ryu Yanagi, leaf-style willow, that is a pretty impressive technique you learned, Anko-chan. It seems that you have gotten stronger, Orochimaru said. Anko growled, but then smirked at him. He was suddenly struck by several snakes that came out of her sleeve. He released her and Anko did another group of hand seals. Futon de Tapa. Wind release. Great breakthrough, Anko shouted and blew a strong chakra-enhanced wind which connected with Orochimaru. He was sent into a tree with some force, and he slumped down onto a branch. He then gasped when Anko ran him through with her sword. She twisted it, making sure that he would bleed out faster. When she looked at him, she was shocked to see him smile at her. That's when he melted into mud. "Damn it. Come out here, you coward," Anko roared. Orochimaru just smirked and decided to make her feel pain before engaging her again. He did a seal to activate the Ten no Juan, cursed seal of heaven that was on her. After a few seconds, he was surprised to see her still standing. He focused a bit more of his chakra, but she was not writhing in pain like she was supposed to. That little bit of chakra alerted Anko to his location, and she charged at him. Orochimaru moved faster and slammed into her. She hit a branch with a thud, and was held down by Orochimaru's foot. He took a kunai and cut off a bit of her clothes to see the curse mark. What he saw made him very curious as another seal was over his. "Well now, what type of seal is that?" Orochimaru asked. "It's a brand new seal from Drea-sama. You like it?" Anko asked mockingly, which made the Sannin dig his foot into her some more. "I think not. I know Drea's work, and this is not it." "So whose work is this?" Orochimaru asked her again. "Your mama, and she told me to tell you that she's very disappointed in you." Anko spat. Orochimaru narrowed his eyes and placed more pressure on her gut. "You test my patience. Now tell me whose seal is that?" Orochimaru asked loudly. He then heard something coming at him and he moved out of the way. He saw that it was a chain that was attached to a fist-size ball. As he was in midair, he was suddenly consumed in darkness. He looked up to see several black swords appear. He tried to dispel the genjutsu and found that he couldn't. The swords dived at him and looked ready to skewer him. He unleashed a large amount of chakra to free himself from the genjutsu. When he looked around, he saw that Anko was gone. "Huh, I don't know who you are, but I will not forget this," Orochimaru said to no one. He melted into the tree, knowing that the Anbu would have felt his chakra. After a few minutes, Yakimo released the genjutsu that she placed after casting the first one. She looked around and could not find any trace of the person who had broken her genjutsu, a jutsu that took a lot of chakra to break out of. Seeing that the coast was clear, she looked at her sensei that was being taking care of Naruto and Jacken. Anko took a few breaths of air before facing her team. "Have I told you guys how much I loved you?" Anko asked. "Not really," Jacken answered. "Good. I ain't going to start now," Anko said with a sigh. The team just chuckled and prepared to move out with their sensei. XXX. Anko was being carried by two clones, which was holding a man-made stretcher. She wasn't hurt anymore, but who was she to stop a free ride? Her team was in a classic position that she taught them when moving with an injured person. As they moved, they came across a scene that made them stop. Anko looked up from her position. "What's going on? Why did you guys stop?" Anko asked. "Sensei, you've got to see this," Yakimo said. Anko got off the stretcher and stood. She walked over to what they were talking about and narrowed her eyes. There were 4 bodies on the ground. They were brutally killed by what she saw. She saw that they were Anbu, but she then looked closer at the mask. They were not standard Anbu masks that she knew. She looked to Jacken and showed him the mask. He got the question and shook his head. She pocketed the mask and looked at the team. "We're moving toward the tower and we're moving fast. We'll use the trees and we aren't stopping until we get there," Anko said. "Hi," they said and they took off. XXX. Maidoshi's eyes stopped glowing, and she had a grin on her face. She had just seen her prey enter the tower, which was very pleasing to her. She was a little worried that it would take them so long, seeing that Anko was their teacher. Whatever the case, she was happy to know that they made it to the tower. She decided to get some rest, but was interrupted by another serpent. Apparently, Orochimaru had called a meeting. She pressed for more and learned that Garen was attacked as well. She decided that she would not ignore this summons and left by Shunshin. Chapter 35, Prelude to the Prelims. Hiruzen entered the office that was in the tower. He was called by the Anbu after Anko and her team needed to see him. Usually this meant that they did something bad again, but the seriousness of the tone was something that he could not ignore. He entered the office, and the team was waiting for him there. The only one who looked roughed up was Anko. Her team looked fine. He could only wonder what they wanted to tell him. I rushed over on your request, Anko. What do you have to report? Hiruzen asked. I assume that you got my message, Hokage-sama. Anko asked. Yes, and I'm a little surprised at your actions, Anko. I thought that you had gotten over that. Hiruzen said. I understand, but knowing that my old sensei infiltrated the exam, I felt that I must act. Anko said. That explains how he broke out of your genjutsu, Yakimo. Naruto said. Hiruzen looked at the team, then back at Anko with a stern glance. She understood why she was getting the look. They saved me from my sensei. They did not engage him, I wouldn't allow them to. He was very interested in the seal that was placed over my old mark as he could not activate it. He was very interested in it. He does not know who it was that placed it. I mentioned Drea, but he did not believe me. Anko said. Either way, it is good that he does not know who did it. We would not want him to come searching for that person. Hiruzen said while looking at Naruto. He turned back to Anko. So you engaged him and were saved by your team. Was that all you needed to speak to me about? No, Anko said and reached into her jacket. She pulled out a mask and handed it to Hiruzen. When he saw it, he instantly recognized it. Where did you find this? Hiruzen asked with a serious tone. I found it in the forest. There were 4 bodies, all of them mutilated by what looks like a special type of weapon. I saw the mask, but did not recognize it as a standard Anbu mask. Anko reported. Is there anything else, Anko? Hiruzen asked. That's all, Hokage-sama. Anko answered. I want you to get checked out, Anko, and your team can rest until the end of the stage. You and your group are not to speak of this. Am I clear? He asked. Hi, Hokage-sama. They all said. He nodded, and made his way out of the office. Once he was gone, everyone released a sigh of relief. I don't think I've seen Sensei that angry. Naruto said. Yeah, and I feel sorry for the poor bastard that gained his wrath. Anko said. She looked at her team and asked if they wanted to get something to eat. She led them to the cafeteria. XXX. Orochimaru was waiting for the arrival of Maidoshi. He did have to wait long as she appeared from the shadows. In the same room with him were Kabuto, his teammates Garen and her team. Once she was there, he stood up straight and faced them. First things first, Kabuto, how is my new body? Orochimaru said. He's still out of it, but it looks like that he will survive the process. His teammates are watching over him and the Odo team is in waiting to attack in the morning. However, I'm worried about the pale-skinned boy. He seems much too skilled for a genin. Kabuto said. He belongs to Danzo. I can tell that he has been through the training. He will be of little consequence. He then turned to Garen and her team. However, the attacks on you and your team do bother me. Orochimaru said. I wouldn't worry about us, Orochimaru. We came out of it fine and showed whoever sent those men that we are not to be messed with. Maidoshi said. This is no time for your arrogance, child. You are just luck that Danzo did not send any of his elite shinobi. Orochimaru said with a tone. Be careful who you speak to, Orochimaru. I care not what you do with your petty little revenge against your sensei, but if you try anything to stop me from getting what I want, I will make you pay. Maidoshi threatened with a dangerous tone. Your obsession with the Kyuubi child is getting to be troublesome. Orochimaru snarled. Orochimaru-sama, perhaps you should allow this to continue. Garen said. Orochimaru snapped his gaze at her. She flinched, but remained calm. We did not come all this way just to get scare of this Danzo. We have proven that his men are not so dangerous, and even if he sent his elite, they would be no challenge against us if we work together. To pull out now will give the Hokage reason to investigate. We are still able to move around thanks to the rules of the exams. We must be cautious. Orochimaru calmed down and led outside. He turned to Kabuto and his team. Return to the forest and continue watch over Sasuke-kun's team. Orochimaru ordered. They nodded and vanished. Orochimaru looked at Maidoshi who had already begun to leave. Her team was following her as was Garen. He glared at the back of the child, and did not like the type of power she held. He could do nothing however, against the little upstart. If he did, then he would be the enemy of the Hebi clan, and they would do everything in their power to destroy him. For now, he would let her live. Another thing that he was concerned about what that seal he saw on Anko's mark. There were very few seals that could contain the power of his Yuan, curse mark. Whatever this seal was complete cut him off from the seal that he placed. While Anko's Yuan was an old design, it was still troubling that it could be done. Not even Drea found a way to do that. Whoever this was had very good skills, and could become a huge problem should he or she get a hold of Sasuke. He would keep an eye out for whoever this Fuinjutsu user was and he would eliminate them before they got to his prize. XXX. Hiruzen made his way toward the council room where he called an emergency meeting. He did not show his anger, but it could be felt by the two Anbu who were escorting him. He reached and entered the room where the elders and clan heads were waiting. A representative of the civilian council was there as Hiruzen made it clear that they had no reason to be there. He stood in front of them with a serious expression. I thank you for coming on such short notice. I assure you that it is important that you are here tonight. Before we begin, I would like to speak to you Danzo. Hiruzen said. What do you? Was all he got out before he was grabbed by the neck and slammed down onto the table. He was choking a bit as Hiruzen had his hand around his throat. He was very surprised at the look of rage on his face as were the other two elders. However, they could do nothing as they saw the two Anbu members right behind them, their hands on their blades. Danzo looked back at Hiruzen with a glare of his own. What do you think that you're doing? He choked out. You will be silent Danzo as you have forgotten your place. Did I give you orders to confront that girl? I told you that nothing could be done as she is a part of the exams, but you decided to go and disobey me. Let me be clear so that this does not happen again. I am the Hokage of Konoha no Sato, and if I must kill you and rip your roots from out the ground just to make my point, then I will. You will remember that Danzo, or I will show you why I am called Shinobi no Kami God of Shinobi. Am I clear? Hiruzen said with a tone. Yes. Hokage-sama Danzo gasped. Hiruzen released him and Danzo was immediately attempting to get his breath back. The two former friends looked at each other with nothing but contempt. Danzo broke the gaze and sat down on his seat. Hiruzen made his way to his seat and sat down. Everyone in the room stayed silent and waited for the shinobi on Kami to speak. When he did, the meeting got on its way. XXX. It was now the second day of the exams. Naruto decided to check out the tower while Jakin went back to sharpen his weapon and Yakimo went to meditate. As he walked around, he met Kurena's team and met the two members of the Suna team. He sent his hellos and continued his trek around the tower. He wondered if anyone else was in the tower. As he turned the corner, he came to an area that was pretty open and close to where the Jonin and Chunin were staying. He stood in the area and waited. When a few moments passed, he decided to call out whoever was following him. It's time to come out now. While you did a good job in the beginning, you're leaking your killer intent, which allowed me to sense you. Naruto called out. That's when his stalker stepped out. It was the red head of the Suna team Gaara. Naruto cursed his luck, but faced Gaara. So, what can I do for you? I want to know what makes you so interesting to that girl that she would dare to threaten me. I see nothing about you that would make you dangerous. You are weak, and I see no threat about you. Gaara said. Gee, don't I feel special in your eyes? I guess that you're talking about Maidoshi. I don't know what her interest is in me, but a more important question, or rather questions, is when did you meet Maidoshi and when did you two cross paths? Naruto asked. Now those are questions that you shouldn't be able to ask. A female voice said. Maidoshi appeared from behind a column, and was standing with the two. She faced Gaara and glared at him. You should keep your mouth shut, sand rat. I don't care about your crazy mother, or whatever you call that thing inside you, but you better keep your mouth shut, or I will shut it for you. You would dare. Gaara growled, and removed his cork to his gourd. I would be careful. There's a reason why Naruto-kun lead you here. You wouldn't want the Jonin and Chunin to come out and deal with you. Maidoshi said. Gaara snarled, but did not attack. Maidoshi just sighed at his face. It's such a task to control such rabid beast, don't you agree, Naruto-kun? I'm not even touching that comment, Maidoshi. I am curious about why you're here. It can't just be because of your curiosity. Naruto stated. Oh, but it is. I don't really have an agenda other than satisfying my curiosity. I mean, student of the Sandaime Hokage, student of Drea the Gamma Sennin, Toad Hermit, student of Mitarashi Anko, and Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi. You have such a wonderful resume, and I want to see it matches up. I'm especially excited to see how much better you have become with that wonderful chakra you hold at bay. Maidoshi said. You can forget it, Maidoshi. Even if we do fight, I won't use that chakra just to satisfy you lust for battle. Naruto exclaimed. So you say, but you know that I am just as skilled, and I have been trained just as well as you have. You may not have a choice, and I have all the time in the world to find your triggers. Maidoshi said with a smile. Naruto just narrowed his eyes at her. Gaara was a little pissed at being ignored, but he did look at Naruto in a new light. So you carry one just like me. Yet, why do you not have the same eyes as me? Gaara asked. He's nothing like you. Maidoshi hissed, surprising Naruto. He's better. Do not forget, Gaara, he is my prey. You do not want to test me. Gaara just glared at her. I swear by the end of this, I will kill you both. Gaara said. He then left the area via Shunshin. Filthy animal, Maidoshi snarled. She turned her focus back to Naruto. The same goes for you, Naruto. You're my prey and no one else can have you. She turned away and left the area as well. Naruto just sighed, and wondered when did he get so popular. He decided to go back to his room, having enough of today's exploration. XXX. The rest of the exam came and went. Everyone who managed to get into the tower was standing in front of the Hokage. Naruto listened to the old man, but he surveyed the competition that was around him. It looked like the rest of the rookies passed the second part of the exam, but they came around the last day. His team, Maidoshi's team, Kurena's team, and the Suna team were pretty well rested. Another team that came in before the deadline was Gei's team. The other Odo team came in with the last two rookie team, and so did Kabuto's team. That added up to 9 teams. Naruto had just finished listening to the Hokage's speech, which was interrupted by Yuga's boyfriend, Gekko Hayate. The guy still looked pretty sick, as he remembered. The man explained that since there are still too many competitors that a preliminaries had to be held. That's when a screen came down from above and Hayate explained that the matches would be random. He asked if anyone wanted to quit, and Kabuto was the only one to do so. He watched as Ibiki watched him as he left, and signaled 2 people to silently follow him. It meant that their suspicions were on the mark. He forgot about Kabuto, and focused on what was about to happen. The preliminary matches of the exams were about to begin. Chapter 36, The Prelims Part 1. A digital board came down from the ceiling. It hovered over them, and began to run through the names. It landed on 2 names. One was Uchiha Sasuke and his opponent was Keitaro. Alright, everyone but these two, please leave the floor and go onto the balconies. Hayate ordered. As everyone made their way to the upper level, Kakashi appeared next to Sasuke. He leaned down and whispered into his ear. I know about that mark on your shoulder. If you decided to use it, then you will be disqualified, and we will seal that mark up immediately. Kakashi said. What? Why? Sasuke hissed. Kakashi squeezed his shoulder and Sasuke winced. Do not argue with me, Sasuke. It was me who got the Hokage to allow you to compete, much to everyone's disagreement. You will not use that mark, or I will take you out of the match right now. Kakashi said with seriousness. Sasuke just nodded, but he was not happy with the decision. Kakashi released him and made his way to the balcony. Sasuke didn't know what the problem with the mark he received. It gave him the power that he was looking for. It was such a rush to use. Whatever, Sasuke thought. He looked across to his opponent and smirked. This guy doesn't look like much. Are you ready? Hayate asked Sasuke. The boy nodded with a grin. He looked at Keitaro and asked the same question. Keitaro grunted and prepared. Then begin. In a flash, Keitaro was in front of Sasuke, which surprised him. He felt a sting to his jaw and took some steps back. He was then struck from the side. He was hit from all angles before being sent flying with a spin kick. Sasuke was able to flip and land on his feet and looked back at Keitaro. The ugly teen stood there without any expression. He didn't know what the hell was going on. He activated his Sharingan and did some hand seals. Katan Gokakya no Jutsu. Fire release, great fireball technique, Sasuke shouted and fired a fireball at him. She suddenly disappeared and the fireball hit the wall. Sasuke was looking around for his opponent when he was cut from behind. He whipped out a kunai and swung it, but hit air. He was then cut again, and he hit nothing but air again. Sasuke realized that she was attacking from below and used his chakra to jump high into the air. Keitaro stuck his head out and Sasuke was preparing another Katan jutsu. Keitaro beat him to it and called out his attack. Katan, Kasumi in Bu no Jutsu. Fire release, mist blaze dance technique, he said softly. He blew out a cloud of mist that surrounded Sasuke. Sasuke fired his Gokakya again, but that ignited the mist, and was caught in a blinding firestorm. On the balcony, Maidoshi looked at fight with a raised eyebrow. She turned her attention to Garen. You've trained her well, Garen. She has turned into one hell of an assassin. Maidoshi said. She had the make of it. I've also helped her with her true form. I dare say that she could be a challenge for Arashi. Garen said. They turned back to the fight as the fire cleared. Sasuke hit the ground hard and groaned in pain. He had some burns on his body and his clothes. He struggled to his feet and focused his Sharingan around the arena. Suddenly, a mist appeared. Sasuke refrained from using any more Katan jutsu. What is wrong, little brother? A voice said. Sasuke's eyes widened and looked around in the mist. Suddenly, a figure appeared and Sasuke was shocked. Standing before him was his elder brother, Uchiha Itachi. Every adult from Konoha was surprised by this. Sasuke looked at the man before him and growled. Everyone could feel an evil power coming off Sasuke. He looked at the man with white-hot rage, and his chakra was starting to become visible. Kakashi and Anko watched as the mark began to glow and Kakashi was prepared to end the match right there. That's when Sasuke did some hand seals, making Itachi's eyes widen. Katan Ryuka no Jutsu. Fire release, dragon fire technique, Sasuke roared. Everyone had covered their eyes and get away from the edge as the ground was ignited in a brilliant orange flame. After a few moments the fire died down and there was nothing but smoke. Suddenly something came flying out of the smoke. It was Keitaro, and she was no longer in disguise. She was in pain as she was hit by something with force. That's when Sasuke appeared behind her. She tried to turn but was struck by a vicious back fist. This was followed up by a crescent kick and a straight punch. He ended the combo with an axe to her gut. Because the last attack connected when she hit the ground, the attack was doubled. Keitaro gasped in pain as the smoke cleared. However, Sasuke wasn't even done. His Sharingan was blazing, and there was nothing but hate in them. He grabbed Keitaro by the throat and slammed her down. Pulling out a kunai, he roared as he was about to bring it down onto her head. Suddenly he was thrown into the wall with incredible force. He shook the cobwebs loose and wondered who had done that to him. When he looked forward, he saw the deadly eyes of Maidoshi, whose sword was being held back by Hayate. Kakashi arrived and slapped his hand down on Sasuke's shoulder. The look he gave him was not one of praise. In fact, he got a look around and saw that everybody on the Konoha side was looking at him as if he was some sort of monster. Maidoshi stopped her struggle and held her sword to her side. Konoha and Garen was helping Keitaro up and checking her over. Maidoshi was not amused and showed it by unleashing her killer intent on Sasuke that forced him to his knees. It only lasted a second before Maidoshi turned back to her team. Hayate let out a sigh of relief before speaking. Winner of the first match, Uchiha Sasuke. He said. Kakashi took that as his signal and left with Sasuke in tow. Everyone else was looking at the burnt grounds with fear and confusion. Maidoshi gently placed Keitaro on the wall and watched over her. She looked to see a pleased look on Orochimaru's face and narrowed her eyes at him. She forgot him and dealt with Keitaro. Across the way, Anko and her team looked over at Maidoshi and her team. I think the Hokage and Kakashi need to put extra security on that boy. You saw it right? She asked her team. It was too fast to see. If Hayate didn't react, Sasuke would be without a head right now. Jacken said. Man, I do not want to be Sasuke right now. I mean, if Maidoshi wants something done, she's going to get it done. Naruto said. Are we discussing this because she wants to take you away and have her way with you? Jacken said. Why are insisting that's what she wants to do? Yakimo asked with an annoyed tone. I'm not saying anything that isn't true. She was flirting with him at the academy and she defended him from Gaara. Other than wanting to beat Naruto in a fight, she could be attracted to him. Jacken argued. Yakimo just shook her head and Naruto glared at Anko. I blame you for this. Naruto said. What did I do? Anko asked with mock surprise. If you didn't read that stupid book in front of us, he wouldn't get these ideas. Naruto answered. Hey, just because there might be a grain of truth in what he's saying does not mean that my reading is the reason. Besides, that book is not stupid. It is a work of art, Anko argued. It's smut, plain and simple. Yakimo said. The team continued to argue, ignore the next two opponents, a Barame Shino versus a Kado Yoroi. XXX. Yoroi faced Shino. Hayate asked if they were ready, and started the match. Yoroi attacked immediately, and closed the distance between the two. Shino tried to get some distance, but the older man was faster than Shino believed. He was suddenly grabbed and slammed into the ground. His hand began to glow as Shino attempted to get his hand off him. Yoroi smirked and decided to let him know what was happening. I wouldn't keep try kid. It will only make this harder for you. As you're probably noticing, I'm draining you of your chakra. Soon, this will all be over. Yoroi boasted. That was a very unwise thing to say. Came Shino's monotone voice. Yoroi whipped around to see Shino standing behind him. That's when he felt his chakra leave him and something crawling up his arm. He turned to see a bunch of bugs crawling up his arm. Yoroi screamed and attempted to get the bugs off him. Shino used this time to attack. He slammed his leg into Yoroi's side and sent him flying. Yoroi flipped to his feet, but noticed that he was surrounded by Shino's bugs. Yoroi growled and made a move to attack Shino. Shino just stood there and allowed Yoroi's attack to connect. Again, Shino dissolved into bugs and crawled up Yoroi's body. Yoroi began to flail around and stomp some bugs. The rest of Shino's bugs attacked and swarmed him in seconds. Yoroi was now in a cocoon of bugs. His struggling reduced until it seems that Yoroi was no longer moving. Shino called his bugs back to him and everyone watched as they retreated back into his clothes. Yoroi was on the ground and not moving. Hayate called the match. Winner of the second match of Baraime Shino. Shino walked back to his team. Neji, who had his Byakugan activated, was surprised by what he was seeing. He has a whole bunch of them within his body. They are feeding off his chakra. Neji said. Wow, that's kind of creepy. Tenten said. The board circled again and two more names appeared. They were Haruo Sakura and Temari. Sakura made her way down to the arena floor as did Temari. Everyone was watching this with worry. Not to be a wet blanket, but we should be prepared to cut in just in case that Suna-kun Oichi goes too far. Naruto said. Lee looked at him with some disappointment. Naruto, why are you dismissing the lovely Sakura's youthful fires? She has blossomed into a beautiful rose during her time in the forest. Lee said. Naruto looked at Lee owlishly. He looked to everyone around him for some type of translation, but he didn't get any. Well, we've run into these Suna ninja before. I do not doubt Sakura, but if the redhead is vicious, what makes you think that she isn't too? We should just be ready to interfere if she goes too far. Naruto explained slowly. Lee looked at him with acknowledgement and gave him a grin with a thumb up. Naruto just shook his head and made a note to look into Mato guy using drugs to influence young men. XXX. Sakura looked across the arena and carefully looked at her opponent. Seeing her pull her fan out, she deduced that she was a long-range fighter. She needed to get close, and she would dominate the fight. She just needed to distract her. When the match began, Sakura rushed forward and threw some shuriken. Temari just smirked and unfolded her fan, showing one moon. She swung her weapon and deflected the projectiles. Sakura did some hand seals and created some clones. Each clone moved to surround her. Seriously? Temari asked no one and swung her fan in an arc. This created a tornado that surrounded Temari and blasted the real Sakura away while dispelling her clones. Sakura struggled to stand and face Temari, who looked at her with a mocking expression. How did you survive so long? Your skills are so pathetic. Did you really think that you could distract me with regular clones? You know what? I'm not even going to waste my time with you. Let's just finish this. Temari completely unfolding her fan, and gave Sakura a sinister grin. Kamaidachi no Jutsu. Sickle weasel technique, Temari called out and swung her fan. The swing created a tornado that swept Sakura up. She began to scream as wind blades began to cut into her. The jutsu continued for quite a while but ended suddenly. Sakura began to descend and Temari was right under her. Everyone saw her smirk and raised her fan. As people got ready to stop her, Sakura was caught by her sensei. Temari was a little shocked and suddenly felt a small chill run up her back when his lone eye looked at her. She backed up and folding her fan up. Kakashi just looked at Hayate and nodded. Hayate nodded as well and ended the match. Winner of the third match, Temari. Hayate announced. Temari walked back to her side, knowing that everyone was glaring at her. Kakashi laid Sakura down and began to wrap his student's wounds. Anko walked over to him. She gave him a look and Kakashi looked at her. There was a silent discussion between the two. Anko made a motion toward Naruto and Kakashi made a small nod. Anko nodded as well and turned her attention to the arena. The board began to light up again. When it landed on two names, Naruto was very interested in it. It would be Maidoshi vs Hinata Dosu. Chapter 37, The Prelims Part 2. Maidoshi walked down slowly as Dosu jumped over the railing. It took a while before Maidoshi was standing in front of the bandaged-faced boy. Maidoshi did not have a smile on her face and folded her arms in annoyance. Dosu pulled back his sleeve to show the gauntlet on his arm. Before the match could begin, Dosu had some choice words for the young girl. Are you still upset about that weak girl that nearly got killed? You are pathetic. To think, I used to fear you because of your cruelty. Now I see that you are too sentimental for your own good. I shall show you and prove to your keeper that I am more than just a pawn. Dosu said. After that was said, Hayate started the match. Dosu got 2 steps before a sword blade was sticking out of his head. His lone eye was wide with surprise. Maidoshi said nothing as she pulled out the blade out. Dosu hit the ground with a thud. His blood began to pour out of his head. Maidoshi flicked the blood and brain matter off before putting her blade away. She walked back to the balcony, ignoring everyone's eyes. As she walked past the sensei of Dosu's team, she could feel the anger coming off him. She ignored it and walked back to her team. She looked to see that Keitaro was now awake. How are you feeling? Maidoshi asked. I will heal. Keitaro said gruffly. I'm sorry that I failed you, Maidoshi-sama. Maidoshi bent down to her and placed her hand on her head. You have nothing to be ashamed for. It just means that Garen should have trained you better. Maidoshi said with a smirk. You're blaming me. Why, you little... Garen began to rant and Maidoshi didn't even look like she was listening. Everyone looked at the group with critical eyes. After they cleaned up the blood and took away the body, the board cycled again, and the next 2 names were given. They were Kurama Yakimo and Yamanaka Ino. XXX. Kurena was paying very close attention to this match. She wanted to see how far Yakimo had come since her graduation. She had attempted to see the teenager, but she was not willing to speak with her. Kurena always regretted leaving the girl after that situation. She remembered when she was given another chance before she was placed in the academy, but she had refused her harshly. When she became a part of Anko's team, she asked her friend if she could set up a meet. The young teen was sharp and figured it out, refusing to meet with her. Anko did promise that she would look out for her. She looked at the ground and waited for the match to begin. XXX. 5th match, Yamanaka Ino vs Kurama Yakimo, begin. Hayate called out. Ino moved quickly to take out Yakimo. The Kurama heiress quickly did some hand seals and waited. Ino threw a kick that connected at her side. Ino was surprised when Yakimo burst into leaves. Ino screamed and swatted the leaves out of her face. That proved to be a mistake as Yakimo quickly struck Ino with 5 knife hand strikes. Ino felt her arm go numb before she was blasted with a spin kick. Ino hit the ground, but was quickly to her feet. However, Yakimo had already finished preparing a jutsu. Magen Narakami no Jutsu. Demonic illusion, hell viewing technique, she said and vanished. As Ino got the feeling back into his arm, she went wide-eyed at the scene that was in her face. She saw Sasuke and Sakura looking at each other with love in their eyes. They were slowly getting closer and their eyes closed. She could see blushes on their cheeks and their lips pucker. Ino was horrified and quickly closed her eyes. She placed her hands in a seal. Genjutsu Kai. Illusion technique dissipation, Ino shouted. When she opened them, she was greeted with a fist that sent her tumbling. Yakimo pressed her advantage and hit Ino from different angles, disabling her arms again. She caught Ino in the chin with a kick when she did a backflip. Ino skid to a stop. She got to her knees and wiped her mouth. She watched as Yakimo geared herself up for another round. Ino was searching for an answer and fast. Her arms were getting over the numbness and Yakimo was about to charge at her again. She pulled out some shuriken and threw it at Yakimo. Yakimo quickly threw some shuriken of her own and knocked Ino's out of the air. They continued their path, forcing Ino to roll out of the way. She was to her feet and threw another set of shuriken. Yakimo knocked the shuriken with ease and charged at Ino. Ino put her hands up to use her clan's Shintention no Jutsu mind-body switch technique. Yakimo saw this and vanished. Ino looked around, but was struck from behind. She was hit again from all sides and sent flying. Ino got to her feet, and was quickly looking for her opponent. She truly needed to do something and something fast. Quickly thinking of something, Ino quickly cut her hair with a kunai. She threw the hair around and slammed her hands to the ground. She focused her chakra through the hair and waited. Her patience paid off as Yakimo suddenly appeared. She was trying to move, but she couldn't. Ino saw this as her chance and did her seal. Shintenshin no Jutsu. Ino called out. Ino hit the ground and Yakimo went stiff. As she looked around the mind, she attempted to gain control of her opponent and make her forfeit. Suddenly, she felt something behind her and turned to see something scary. It looked like a monster with sharp fangs and teeth. Ino was frozen stiff as the monster closed in on her. She was suddenly grabbed and thrown through a black hole. Back on the outside, Ino quickly opened her eyes and scrambled to get away. Yakimo shook the cobwebs. She looked at the blonde, and could see the fear in her eyes. What the hell was that? Ino demanded. That was the curse of the Kurama clan. I would think that a Yamanaka would be advised of such dangerous things. No matter, it's time to finish this. Yakimo said and did some hand seals. In an instant, Ino was caught in another genjutsu and was unable to move. Yakimo did another genjutsu, which showed Ino the image of the Ino coming after her. Ino screamed and immediately surrendered. Winner of the fifth match Kurama Yakimo. Hayate said. Yakimo dispelled her genjutsu and freed Ino. The blonde quickly made her way back to her side, eager to get away from the teenager. Yakimo felt a little bad about that, but she suddenly felt a hand on her shoulder. It was Anko, and she gave the young woman a grin and a thumbs up. She looked to see her teammates giving her congratulations as well. This made her feel a little better, and she retreated to join her team. Hirena watched her and was very glad that Yakimo had succeeded. She then felt a little sad that she was not the reason for Yakimo's groan. Guilt crept into her mind as she gave up on the girl because of her failure as an instructor. Anko, while a very good friend, did not give up like she did, and produced a very skilled and dangerous kunoichi. Despite her insecurities, she was very happy for her former student and wished her well in the finals. The board cycled again and two more names popped up. It was Rock Lee versus Inuzuka Kiba. XXX. Yahoo! Let's get ready, Akamaru. Kiba cheered. The small white puppy cheered, and the two jumped down to the ground. Yash, it is time for my youth to shine. Lee exclaimed and did the same. The two landed and walked up to each other. Hayate saw that the two were ready and started the match. They jumped back and got into their respective stance. Kiba. Take this boy serious. Hirena ordered. Kiba saw the look on his sensei, and did not want to face the consequences if he disobeyed. Alright, Akamaru, let's get started. Kiba said and threw a small pill to the dog. He ate it, and everyone watched as his fur turned red. Kiba got low and put his hands into a seal. Shikyaku no Jutsu. 4 legs technique, Kiba called out. He took a more animal-like appearance and growled at Lee. Akamaru then jumped onto his back and barked. Kiba did another seal. Jujin Bunshin. Beast human clone with a puff of smoke. Akamaru changed into his partner, looking just like him. Instead of concern on the face of Lee, the large eyebrow guy looked happy about it. What a splendid challenge. Lee cheered. Heh, let's see if you'll be smiling after we tear you apart. Kiba said. The two charged at him with amazing speed. They closed the distance between them pretty quickly and attacked. However, instead of connecting their attacks, Lee dodged them with ease. Kiba was not deterred and with Akamaru, attacked Lee with ferocity. Lee ducked and dodged the two-man attack without too much trouble. He decided to stop dodging and return the favor. He ducked under a claw strike and landed a crushing blow to Kiba that sent him flying. Akamaru attempted to hit him from behind, but Lee batted the attack down, and quickly swept his feet from under him. Akamaru tumbled into Kiba, as Lee got back into his stance. Surely, you can do better than that. My flames have not been stroked enough. Lee said. Kiba and Ikamaru growled. Oh, I'll stroke your flames. Kiba growled and charged at him with Ikamaru. Kiba took out 2 black balls, threw them toward the ground. A black smoke appeared and blinded Lee. Lee was looking around until he was struck multiple times from within the smoke. Lee ran out of the smoke to be ambushed by Kiba and Ikamaru. As their claws was about to slam down on him, Lee vanished. They were looking around for the teen when they caught a whiff of his scent. They ran after him and attacked him from each side. Gotsuga. Fang passing Fang, the 2 spun, forming 2 drill-like tornadoes. As they descended on Lee, the boy vanished again. The 2 drills ripped apart the ground that he was standing on. Using their superior sense of smell, they were able to find Lee as he reappeared. They turned and came at him again. Lee just appeared again as the attack neared and appeared on the statue. Kiba and Ikamaru stopped spinning and looked at the spandex-wearing ninja. Lee looked a little disappointed. Is that all you have? I wanted to have a challenge so that I can show Guy-sensei how far I've come. Lee commented. The comment angered Kiba and he and Ikamaru prepared to attack again. This time, Lee attacked him seriously. He threw a kunai with amazing speed that forced the 2 to split up. He reappeared in front of one of the Kibas. Dynamiku Intori. Dynamic entry, Lee said. The power behind of the kick sent Kiba toward the wall with some force. He hit the wall hard, creating spider web cracks, and then hit the ground. Smoke covered him and Ikamaru had returned to his normal form. Ikamaru. Kiba shouted. Because he took his eyes off him, Lee was right there in his space. Konoha senpu. Tree leaf whirlwind, Lee called out. Kiba saw the first kick high and prepared to block, but it switched in midair and caught Kiba in the chest. Lee continued with a series of high and low kicks that had Kiba reeling. When it was over, Kiba was on the ground and not moving. Winner of the 6th match, Rock Lee. Hayate said. Rock Lee didn't feel like celebrating as he didn't feel like he was challenged enough. He just shrugged it off and vowed that he will have a challenge worthy of his flames of youth. As he returned to his team, he saw Naruto and Yakimo there to greet him. Holy crap, man. I didn't know that you were that fast. I know about your condition, so how did you do it? Naruto asked. It's all thanks to Guy-sensei. Through hard work and my ever-growing flames, I have become the Konoha no Utsukushiki Onyaju, Konoha's beautiful green wild beast that you see before you. Lee said. Yakimo just sighed at him. Why is it that you cannot talk like a normal person? She then turned to face Tenten and Neji. And you too? Why didn't you stop your sensei's brainwashing of Lee? Yakimo demanded. Look, Yakimo, it was either we left him to Guy-sensei or we all would be wearing that spandex. Tenten commented. A sacrifice had to be made. Neji added. Yakimo looked at Lee's outfit. Well, I guess I can understand, but still. Yakimo began on another tirade. Naruto just chuckled while Anko and Kakashi dealt with a dejected Guy and Lee. Jacken just shook his head and looked at the board. The 7th match had been made. It would be Tsurugi Misumi versus Kodoheim. XXX. The 2 fighters stared at each other. Kodoheim had a very disgusted look on her face at the look that Misumi gave her. It was a very perverted look and she did not like it one bit. While she knew that this man was actually a spy for Orochimaru, it did not mean that he could just look at her like a piece of meat. She looked at Maidoshi and waited for something. After a while, Maidoshi made a slitting motion with her thumb across her neck. Kodoheim turned back with a smile. She readied herself to do what she must to him. Hayate looked at the 2 and saw that they were ready. 7th match, Tsurugi Misumi vs Kodoheim of the Fuma clan begin. Chapter 38, The Prelims Part 3. Misumi charged at Kodoheim, who was doing some hand seals. Her hair wrapped around her in a protective cocoon. Misumi grabbed her and began to wrap around her. Everyone who was watching was a little put off by the ability that he was showing. Anko was the only one who had her eyes narrowed. She didn't know how, but this guy knew something that he shouldn't. The technique he was using was the Nan no Kaizo, soft physique modification, and it was an ability of her former master. She made a quick motion to the Hokage, who nodded. Back on the ground, Misumi was chuckling and bragging about the situation. He was tightening his hold on the girl. That hair of yours would not help you. Perhaps if you allow me to get a feel, then I might be persuaded to let you advance. What do you think, huh? Misumi asked with a perverted tone. How about you die instead? Konoha said. Misumi suddenly gasped as he felt several knives punch through his midsection. He quickly released Konoha, who then landed a kick to his wounded area. He hit the ground with a groan, and struggled to stop the bleeding. Konoha turned to him and gave him a sinister grin. She stabbed her hair into the ground, and did some hand seals. The hair then charged at Misumi, creating large spikes that came out of the ground. Misumi was white with fear as he could not move. As the attack closed in, Misumi was saved by Hayate before he could get skewered. Konoha was angered and confused by what the sick-looking man had done. He looked at her with a serious gaze. He was unable to continue. While killing is allowed, it is not done willingly. This match is over. Konoha of the Fuma clan is winner of the 7th match. Hayate informed. Konoha's hair returned to normal, but she was unhappy about not finishing the pervert. She hoped that she would get another chance in the future. The medic rushed Misumi out, but Orochimaru could see that they were not normal medics. He cursed Misumi for his carelessness. He figured that Anko had noticed his ability and linked it to him. He was also very angry with Guren's team. He watched as they congratulated Konoha on her win. He would need to do something about this soon. The board cycled again, and 2 names popped up. It was Neji and Hinata. This caused a lot of people to look at the match up with worry. Neji didn't say anything and made his way down to the stadium floor. As he made his way down, he remembered a conversation that he had with opponent. Flashback. Neji had returned from a joint training exercise with Team Anko. His mind was heavy with thoughts because of the discussion he had with Naruto. He had come to respect the blonde despite their different views. During the exercise, he had asked about the seal on his head. He told that he had an interest in Fuinjutsu and was interested. Neji told him all about the seal and what it does. Naruto was disgusted with the head family use of the seal, but it also explained a lot about Neji's hatred. However, this spurred another question from the blonde that stuck. He asked him why he lumps his cousin with the others. He further explained himself by telling him that many of the Hyuga clan was pricks, but Hinata was not. He commented that she was too shy to actually be a Hyuga. Neji told him about what happened to his father, and what led to his death. Naruto countered by saying that she was 3. It turned into an argument, but Naruto then came up with a challenge for him. He asked him to actually ask Hinata what she thought about the seal. He took the challenge, assuming the answer. As he entered, he saw her walking somewhere. He quickly walked up to her, startling her. And Neji Nissan, what can I do for you? Hinata asked. Come with me. He commanded. Hinata just nodded and followed Neji to the training hall. Once there, he turned to face her. I want to know what you think of the seal. Neji said. What? Hinata asked with shock. I want to know your true thoughts. I never heard of you using it, but I know how the head family is. You may have others fooled, but my eyes can see through you. Now, tell me. Neji said in a demanding voice. Hinata was very nervous, but she gathered her courage and faced him. I hate the seal and all it represents. Hinata answered him. Neji bore into her, but he could not tell if she was lying. There was just no sense of deception. I know that you hate me because of what happened to you father, and for that, I am truly sorry. You think that just because you say that you're sorry that it makes it any better. I have no father because of you. Neji roared. And if I could take his place, then I would without pause. Hinata shouted, shocking Neji. At least, if father would look at me with some pride. I can't change the past, but I can change the future. I can try to make the Hyuga a true family. Hinata said. Neji looked at his cousin with shock and frustration. He balled his fists, and tried to come up with something. Instead, he stormed off, making his way toward his room. Present. Since that talk, he had avoided her. He would at times spy on her and see her practice. She would pathetically continue even when she was tired. After a while, he began to begrudgingly respect her. Now, he would see if it would pay off. He looked across from him and saw Hinata. She was nervous and shaking. He sighed, gaining her attention. Normally, I would just tell you that you have no chance, that destiny has named me the winner. However, that is not what I'm going to do. You will show me the depths of your resolve, Hinata-sama. Neji said. What do you mean? Hinata asked with a little surprise. You said that you want to make the Hyuga a true family, right? Let's see if you have the resolve to actually do that. Neji said. He slipped into his stance, and prepared himself. Show me, Hyuga Hinata, heiress to the clan, if you have the resolve to complete your objective. That statement must have done something to Hinata. She lost her nervousness gradually and did a seal. Byakugan. She called out. Activating her dojutsu, she slipped into her stance as well. Neji activated his Byakugan as well. Hayate looked at the two and saw that the talk was over. Hyuga Neji versus Hyuga Hinata begin. Hayate said. The two charged at each other and began to throw blows. Using the Jukin, gentle fist, their clan style, they both went at it. Everyone was at awe at the taijutsu skill that was being shown by the two. They would counter, parry and avoid each other's strikes, knowing that one hit could prove to be damaging. Neji was still holding back, but he was a little impressed with his cousin. He had seen her use the Jukin and she was just awful at it. However, the girl must have found a way to suit it to her natural flexibility. He would not get a clean shot against her. After a great length of time, the two separated and faced each other. Hinata looked a little winded, and so did he. He winced a little as during the exchange, Hinata managed to get a glancing blow on his side. Despite that, he had done much more to her. He decided to show her what he did and dropped his guard. Hinata saw this and attacked. Her palm landed, but Neji didn't even flinch. He grabbed her wrist and pulled down her coat sleeve. There, she saw what he did. She was very surprised that Neji managed to shut off her chakra within that exchange. She tried to attack with the other arm, but Neji caught it, and cut the chakra off. He then hit her with a Jukin strike to her midsection. Hinata flew back, but was quick to her feet. She went back into the Jukin stance before charging again. Neji dodged her strikes with ease before sending her flying with a two-hit combo that sent her to the ground again. Hinata stood again and attacked. Neji just looked at his cousin, seeing the determination in her eyes. He still held back and used minimal force against her, but she would just keep getting up and came at him. Neji decided that it was time to end this. He ducked under another attempt and got into a familiar stance. Hinata's eyes went wide. Hack Sanjuni Show. 8 trigrams 32 palms, Neji said, and attacked. Hinata tried to defend herself, but she was struck with every palm that Neji unleashed. His final strike sent her flying across the floor where she landed motionless. Neji sighed and relaxed himself. He turned to Hayate before taking his leave. Winner of the 8th match, Hayate began. Wait. A meek voice shouted. Neji whipped her head around and looked on in shock at what he was seeing. Hinata was on her hands and knees, but she was slowly pushing herself to her feet. He couldn't believe that she could still stand after that. Hinata pushed forward slowly toward Neji before gaining a quick stride. That stride turned into a dash. Hinata reared her hand back as she closed in. She roared as best as she could and struck Neji in the chest. While it had no chakra in it, Neji felt the blow. Hinata kept her hand there and was breathing very hard. She looked at Neji who stared right back at her. They looked at each other for a while before Hinata pitched forward. Neji caught her and held her as she went limp. Before she went totally out, she said these words. Have I changed? Neji Nissan? She asked before passing out. Neji carefully laid her down and looked at her unconscious form. You'll need to change some more, Hinata-sama. Lucky for you, I will be with you all the way. Neji said softly. He turned away and made his way back to his team. He heard Hayate declare him the winner, but if he stayed just a little longer, he would have seen the smile that was on Hinata's face. XXX. After clearing Hinata from the floor, the board cycled again and 2 names appeared. Naruto was very interested in this match because Gaara was fighting. He felt very sorry for his opponent, who had his arms in slings. He was wondering why this Zaku guy was competing with such an injury, but if he did not forfeit, then he was a dead man. The two stood across from each other, but Gaara was paying no attention at him. The red head turned to him and looked at him with promise of pain and death. Naruto looked back without fear. He then broke contact with him and started to glare at Maidoshi. Even after the match started, Gaara kept glaring at the young girl. Maidoshi just looked at him without interest, which seemed to anger him more. Tired of being ignored, Zaku removed his arm from one of the slings and charged forward. When he was close enough, pointed his hand at Gaara. Zankyo! Decapitating airwaves, Zaku shouted. A large blast of air exploded in Gaara's face. Zaku had a victorious smirk on his face until the smoke cleared. He was surprised to see Gaara's sand protected him from being blown away. Zaku growled as his attack could destroy stone. He jumped back a few feet and removed the other arm. He braced himself as he collected air into his hands. He pointed forward, his palms facing Gaara. Zanka Kyokyo! Extreme decapitating airwaves, Zaku roared and fired his attack. Everyone had to block their eyes as the attack ripped the ground up and destroyed everything in its path, including the doors and wall behind it. When Zaku stopped his technique, there was a large trench in the ground. Zaku began to laugh and cheer to his victory. That's when he felt dust fall over him. He looked up to see a cloud of sand. It descended on him in a hurry and Zaku found himself wrapped up in a cocoon of sand. Gaara appeared, his hand held out. Sabaku Soso. Sand waterfall funeral, Gaara said, and closed his hand into a fist. The sand convulsed and crushed Zaku. No one could hear his screams. Drips of bloody sand fell onto the ground. Gaara just looked at Maidoshi and Naruto before returning to his team. Winner of the 9th match, Sabaku no Gaara. We will take a small break to repair the floor. Hayate said. As several people came to repair the floor and wall, Anko turned to Naruto. He seems very excited to kill you. Maybe you should step out and quit. Anko said. I don't think that would do anything. Even if I quit, he would still come after me. Don't worry about it, sensei. I won't be leaving this world until the old man's hat is mine. Naruto said. Anko chuckled and ruffled his hair. Across the way, Karen was having a similar conversation. I'm just saying that boy is unstable. I know that you're strong, but you might be biting off more than you can chew. Karen said. Are you actually concerned for me, Karen? Maidoshi asked with amusement. You don't have to worry. That sand rat can't match me. He could glare all he wants, but he will know that I am the apex predator between us. Whatever, I hope he kills you. Karen said. Love you too. Chapter 39, The Prelims Final Part. The broad cycled again, and 2 more names were named for the 10th match. It would be Tenten versus Watanabe Jacken. The two jumped down to the floor and readied themselves to fight. Both teams were looking at this with some interest. Tenten looked at Jacken with a cocky grin. You ready to lose again? She asked. Someone's confident. It's going to be so fun to see your face when I'm the victor, Jacken said with a grin. Hayate saw that the talking was done and began the match. In a flash, each of them launched shuriken at each other in rapid motion. Each shuriken knocked each other out of the way and landed on the ground. Tenten jumped back and used a scroll. It launched a torrent of weapons at Jacken. Jacken easily dodged and pulled out his Kusarigama. He threw 3 shuriken and Tenten countered. Jacken used this to wrap his new long chain around her ankle. With a tug, he pulled her forward and used the Shunshin body flicker to close the distance between them. He appeared above her and landed an axe kick to her gut. Tenten hit the ground, but quickly freed herself from the chain. She rolled away and threw 3 shuriken at Jacken. Jacken used her weapon to defend himself, batting the shuriken away, and whipped the chain toward Tenten. Tenten moved out of the way and began to fire some more shuriken at him. Jacken used the chain as a whip, knocking away her weapons and attacking Tenten. She dodged for a good while, but she was clipped a few times by the whipping motion. Having enough of the cat and mouse, Jacken spun the sickle quickly, creating a mini buzzsaw. He launched it, cutting Tenten off. He did the same with the ball, launching it with such speed. Tenten barely dodged, but she saw that it would have been off target anyway. She was curious as to why until she was hit by Jacken, who hit her with a flying side kick. She gasped as he hit her in the stomach, and she was sent flying away. She hit the ground and bounced 2 times before landing in a heap. She struggled to get back to her feet and looked to see Jacken in his stance. Tenten realized what Jacken was doing. While she was a student of one of Konoha's top taijutsu jonin, Tenten mainly used weapons. Jacken was the same, but he was also skilled in ninjutsu and taijutsu. He had abandoned the long-range battle and decided to fight her up close. She needed to get the fight back into her element. She grabbed 2 scrolls and placed them next to her. She did some hand seals and the scrolls exploded into 2 dragons. Jacken watched as the dragons disappeared and was replaced with scroll paper. Sashoria! Twin rising dragons, Tenten shouted, and flew up into the air. She hovered in mid-air and began to unseal a multitude of weapons that she threw at Jacken. Jacken batted the weapons away from him and dodged as best as he could. He was starting to get tired, but he was able to escape with minor cuts. Tenten smirked and pulled her hands back. Jacken watched as each weapon rose and hovered in the air. Jacken saw the thin ninja wire that was attached to the weapons. Jacken was not about to let her attack him again. He did a single seal and charged his chakra. Red arcs of lightning arced off him. Horizon. Crimson lightning flash. Hearing those words, his team hit the deck. He jumped in the air and began to whip the chain around. Kyafu Dejishin. Quake with fear, Jacken shouted and launched the ball of the weapon to the ground. It pierced through the ground and dug very deep. After a few moments, the ground exploded into a series of chains that slammed into the walls and rails. Tenten's weapons were destroyed and she was wrapped up in the chains. Jacken landed on the chains and did another seal, making lightning spark off his body. He gave Tenten a smirk, who just widened in fear. Knowing that he was giving her a choice, Tenten took the lesser of 2 evils. Protector, I'm giving up. Tenten shouted. Hayate nodded and declared Jacken the winner. He dispelled his jutsu and Tenten was free. She looked up to see Jacken looked at her with a cocky smirk. She glared at him for it. Don't give me that look, you smug bastard. Just help me to my feet, she exclaimed. Cammy, you're bitchy, Jacken said and offered his hand. She took it and Jacken helped her up. That's when a piece of Tenten's clothes fell off and the contestants got a view of some side boob. Jacken was very focused on the developing piece of flesh and did not turn away. Tenten was confused until she heard a cat call from Kiba. She looked down and was mortified. Seeing that Jacken did not avert his eyes, she kicked him in the face while covering her modesty. She straddled him and began to wail on him with one hand. Naruto, Yakimo, Neji and Lee had quite the time separating the enraged girl from Jacken. Anko was on the ground laughing while Guy shouted about youthful love, earning him a kunai to the face. XXX. After separating the two, getting Tenten some spare clothes, healing Jacken's injuries and keeping Tenten from killing Jacken, the prelims continued. The board cycled again, and it was now Naruto's turn. He saw that his opponent was one of the Suna ninja Kankuro. The match was interesting because whoever won would have their whole team in the finals. They both faced each other and prepared themselves. Naruto pulled out his staff, while Kankuro prepared himself for close combat. That confused the blonde because he was a puppeteer. He figured it out and smirked. Izumaki Naruto vs Sabaku no Kankuro begin. Hayate called out. Naruto quickly jumped back some distance while doing hand seals. Katan, Goen no Jutsu. Fire release, great flame technique, Naruto shouted, and launched a large stream of flames at Kankuro. The boy widened as he was consumed by the flame. From out of the wrap, Kankuro appeared, and quickly got out of the flame's path. He used chakra no Ito, chakra threads, to pull out what was burning in the flames, and placed it in front of him. Kankuro cursed as his puppet, Karasu, Crow, was slightly burnt. Son of a bitch, Kankuro growled, and looked forward to see the edge of a staff. He moved away, but Naruto would not let up in attacking him. Kankuro quickly used his puppet to skewer Naruto from behind with wrist blades. Naruto gasped, but suddenly dispelled. Kankuro was confused until Naruto appeared behind him. Doton Doria Taiga. Earth release, earth flow river. Kankuro was swept up by the river and Naruto did another set of seals. Doton Doriden. Earth release, earth dragon bullet. A dragon formed and fired several balls of mud. Kankuro used Karasu and separated the puppet. He used the torso as a shield while attacking with the head and arms that had blades on them. Naruto defended himself with his staff and dodged with quick reflexes. He noticed that there was something purple on the tip of the blade. His eyes widened as he realized that the blades were poison. Kankuro escaped the mud and brought his puppet back together. Karasu opened his mouth and the puppet shot several senbon at Naruto. Naruto slammed his hands on the ground. Doton Dorokugeshi. Earth release, earth shore return. A slab of earth quickly rose and protected Naruto from the assault. Naruto created a Kage Bunshin shadow clone before disappearing underground. Kankuro made his puppet fly into the air and opened the torso of his puppet. It released several small bombs that fell toward Naruto. Naruto did his final set of seals. Futon de Tapa. Wind release, great breakthrough. The attack blew the bombs, senbon, and the earth shield right at Kankuro. The puppeteer called Karasu back and jumped onto its back to escape the attack. Kankuro jumped down on the ground where Naruto popped out of the ground. He caught Kankuro with a palm strike to one of his arms. She spun into his defense and slammed another palm strike to his other arm. Kankuro winced and maneuvered his puppet to chase Naruto away. The blonde jumped away, but had a smirk on his face when he did another seal. Fuin. Seal, Naruto said. With that word, Kankuro suddenly lost the ability to control his puppet. Shocked by this, he did not see the butt of a flying staff that hit him in the head. Naruto suddenly appeared above him and slammed his feet into his chest and slammed him into the ground. Naruto caught the staff in midair and stabbed the staff on Kankuro's throat. He placed his palm on the other end and looked ready to push the staff to break Kankuro's throat. Submit. Naruto said. Kankuro attempted to get to his puppet, but he was unable to. Naruto pushed the staff into his throat to let him know that he meant business. With a frown, Kankuro did submit to the situation. Winner of the 11th match is Izumaki Naruto. Hayate said. Naruto got off Kankuro and did a release hand seal. He touched both of Kankuro's hands and the team was able to use the chakra in his arms again. He was curious about that, but Naruto was already going back to his side. Watching him, Gaara narrowed his eyes. He did not know what the blonde did to Kankuro, but it was very similar to what he did to him in their first meeting. What was that he did, and could it really stop him from killing him? Maidoshi did know what Naruto did, and was giddy with excitement. That was a very high skill with Fuinjutsu that she rarely saw. The fact that he was able to place two Jutsu Shiki technique formula was impressive. She had to fight him now. She wished to fight him first and Kami help anyone who didn't give it to her. XXX. The 12th match of the prelims was Tsuki Kin vs. Sai. The two were facing each other and Kin couldn't help but frown at her opponent. He had that same stupid smile that he had when they met in the forest. The genin had pissed her off something fierce because he had dealt with them pretty easily. That was before Sasuke stepped in and destroyed them all with Orochimaru's power. That pissed her off more that she was used as nothing but fodder. Not only that, but her teammates were dead and Orochimaru didn't really care. It infuriated her. As Hayate was about to start the match, Kin struck out with several senbon. She used the bells to activate her genjutsu, making Sai see multiple copies of her. Dazed, Kin struck at Sai, drive a kunai into his throat. She gave the boy a vicious smirk before her eyes widened in shock when she felt cold steel cut across her throat. She quickly grabbed her throat to stop the bleeding. She turned to see the smiling teen, holding a bloody tanto. The one that she stabbed dispelled into a black goo. Sai walked away, sheathing his weapon. Hayate quickly called for the medics, but it would be too late for Kin. The last member of the Odo team was dead. XXX. The final match, if you could call it a match, was between best friends Nara Shikamaru and Akimishi Choji. Despite Asuma's bribery, neither genin participated. Shikamaru refused to fight Choji and Choji refused to fight Shikamaru. Because of this, Hayate had no choice but to disqualify the both of them. Asuma sighed at the result, and swore to make the two pay for it. With that, the prelims are over. The winners of the match were now standing in front of the Hokage. Sasuke was not there, so Kakashi was there for him. They all stood and waited for the Hokage to speak. Congratulations on your victories. You have shown incredible skill and intelligence in each of your matches. However, your journey is not complete. There is still one more step for you until you can reach the rank of Chunin. A one-on-one tournament in front of your peers and daimyos, where you will be judged to see if you deserve the rank of Chunin. Few of you could pass, or none of you can pass. That is just the risk you take as Chunin. In 1 month time, your fate is in your own hands. Hiruzen said. Enough already, let's get on with it. Gaara said with impatience. Hiruzen didn't look intimidated and made a motion to Anko. She was holding a box and made her way over to Kakashi first. Another jonin pulled out a board with numbers on it. She held the box out and Kakashi dug his hand in it. He pulled out a piece of paper that had a number on it. 11. Kakashi said. The other Chunin wrote Sasuke's name in the 11th spot. Next was Shino. 3. Shino said. 6. Temari said. 2. Maidoshi said. 7. Yakimo said. 10. Lee said with excitement. 8. Konoha said. 9. Neji said. 12. Gaara said. 5. Jakin said. 1. Naruto said. This caused a small chuckle to come from Maidoshi, which turned into a full-blown laughter. A sweat drop appeared on his head and wondered what he was getting into. 4. Sai said. With the final name, Anko faced the finalists. Alright maggots, this is how the matches are. The first match will be Uzumaki Naruto against Maidoshi of Odokachi. She said. Naruto looked at her and she at him. He could see that she was very pleased about the matchup. This brought some concern to Naruto. It would seem that he would have to count on the Kyuubi to fight this foe. The second match will be a Barame Shino against Sai. Neither opponent made a comment or looked at each other. The third match will be Watanabe Jakin against Sabaku no Temari. Jakin looked at the blonde before returning to face Anko. Temari briefly looked at him and returned to the front. The fourth match will be Korema Yakimo and Konoha of the Fuma clan. Konoha looked at the Kurama princess because she was also another person of interest for Maidoshi. The fifth match will be Hyuga Neji against Rock Lee. Lee cheered and hopped around. Neji just sighed and cranked his neck. The final match will be against Uchiha Sasuke against Sabaki no Gaara. Gaara did not look pleased about the matchup. While Sasuke may have had the same eyes as him, he was weak compared to Naruto and Maidoshi. He would agree to it for now. The Uchiha would be enough to whet his appetite. Alright, you guys have a month to come up with new tactics and jutsu. It will be held at the stadium in Konoha. Good luck, and don't die. Chapter 40, Preparing for the Finals. Maidoshi was walking with Garen to her left, Keitaro and Konoha to her right. They had just left the forest and quickly made their way out of Konoha. Maidoshi knew that they would have been shadows the second that they left the forest by either the Hokage or this Danzo person. Lucky for her, she knew several serpents that could use the Henge no Jutsu transformation technique. She had just gotten word that their tail was not assumed by the trick. Either way, they were in the clear. Garen, it will be your job to prepare Konoha, and to keep Keitaro's skills growing. Maidoshi said. Yeah, I heard you the first time. I assume that you will be training as well. Garen asked. Of course. I expect the Gamma Sennin Frog Hermit to take my prey to train. It would not be wise to underestimate him. Maidoshi said. She suddenly stopped and looked ahead. Garen and the others prepared themselves. Maidoshi raised her hand to calm them. What do you want, Orochimaru? The pale-faced man stepped out of hiding and faced the group. They could all see that he was not happy. What do you think that you are doing, girl? You have cost me a lot. And, what did you think you were doing, almost destroying my new body? Orochimaru hissed in displeasure. Your boy should have much more control of his emotions. They will get him killed one day. As for your selected team, Dosu should have known better. Zaku was never going to survive against the animal, and Kin was too overzealous in attacking that killer. Maidoshi stated. She then gave Orochimaru a smirk. Why are you so angry with me? You have many in that village of yours that you don't care about. One of them can be used for your jutsu. She was suddenly grabbed by the throat and slammed into a tree. He bore a hole in her when he suddenly realized that the other three were preparing to attack him. He turned to them, giving them a glare. Realizing what they were doing, they backed down. Orochimaru turned to Maidoshi. Do not forget, Maidoshi, if it wasn't for the power you hold, I would have killed you by now. Do not think that the protection of the Heavy Snake clan can save you. He hissed before releasing Maidoshi and disappearing like mist. Maidoshi rubbed her throat and glared at the spot that Orochimaru once was. Regaining her composure, she turned to Garen. I wasn't expecting that for you. You're pretty loyal to the snake. Maidoshi said. A temporary lapse of judgment, trust me, it won't happen again. Garen said to her. Maidoshi scoffed, but had a small smile on her face. She then got serious. We're going to have a change of plans. You guys are coming with me. She said. Where? Garen asked in genuine curiosity. Ryushido Dragon Ground Cave. XXX. The next day, Anko had gathered her team at the entrance of the Forest of Death. She had gathered them because she was having a time figuring out what to do about two of her students. Yakimo, she knew that her clan would be taking on her monthly training. She wasn't too worried about her because she knew that Onkai was not one to hold back. She also, secretly, knows what she would be going through. Her other two were a problem. She considered dumping the training on the Hokage with Naruto, and the Anbu with Jakin. However, the appearance of Orochimaru put a damper on that. So she decided to do this in the only way she knew how. Too bad her students did not agree with the method. What's wrong with this idea? Anko asked with a grunt. We are not picking up the kunai, and we are not stabbing each other. Just because you live off blood doesn't mean that we have to. Naruto said. Yeah, Didn't you get enough murder and mayhem during the prelims? Jacken asked. Ah, but I want some blood. Anko whined. The three genin sighed at her antics. There you are. A voice said. Everyone turned to see Jiraiya. The white-haired ninja waved at the group with a smile. Ero Sennin? What are you doing here? Naruto asked the man. He got a slap upside the head for the name, and Naruto glared at him. Jiraiya returned the glare, but turned his attention to Anko. Hey Anko, I was hoping that you wouldn't mind if I took the brat of the month. He asked. Really? Do you honestly think that I will allow it after the last time you trained him? Anko said with a dangerous tone. Jiraiya held his hands up in surrender. I promise I won't do that again. The truth is I'm a little concerned about his opponent. Jiraiya said with a serious tone. Anko was as well. She didn't like Maidoshi's interest in him and feared the worst. Alright, I'll leave his training to you. Anko said. Jiraiya nodded and gave her a thumb up. Anko then walked up to Jacken and draped her arm on Jacken's shoulders. Well, that makes you the odd man out, Jacken. Is there a chance that I can find another sensei? Jacken asked. Naruto quickly grabbed Jiraiya and used the Shunshin no Jutsu body flicker technique to go. Yakimo had already used a genjutsu to get out of the area. Jacken growled at his teammates. Traitors. Ah, don't be like that. We are going to have so much fun this month. Anko cooed. She then let out a chilling laugh that had the young man whimpering in fear. XXX. Neji had put on his sandals, and was preparing to go and meet Tenten for training. He needed help with a jutsu that he had just replicated. He stood to feet, and was ready to go when a member of the main house had just summoned him to the meeting room. Curious as to what they wanted, Neji made his way to the meeting room. He was let in and made his way to the center of the room. He kneeled and faced the head of the room where Hiashi, Hinata, Hanabi, and a Hyuga elder sat. You summoned me, Hiashi-sama? Neji asked. Yes, I did. Starting today, you will be trained by me for the month that you are allowed to train for the finals. Hiashi said to the point. Neji looked at the man with surprise and shock. He could hear the murmurings of the other main house members, but he ignored it for the time being. I do not understand, sir. Why am I being given such an honor? Neji asked. That, you must ask Hinata. Hiashi said. Hinata took a deep breath before facing Neji. Neji, you are the Hyuga's greatest prodigy. You have no equal in our age group. Why should you not be taught a main house jutsu? Wouldn't it be better if you are given more strength? Also, I need to have someone of your level to help me improve this month. I wish to stand on my own 2 feet, and I would like for you to lend me your strength. Do you accept this honor, cousin? Hinata asked. Neji looked at his cousin before bowing his head. I accept this honor, Hinata-sama, Hiashi-sama. Neji said. Very well, your training will begin later today. You are dismissed. Hiashi said. Neji bowed and made his way out of the meeting room. He ignored the talking as he had the biggest smile on his face. He needed to tell Tenten that he would not need her help anymore. XXX. Gaara made his way to the gates of Konoha. He had his gourd and his things with him. Everyone gave the red head a wide berth as he was emitting a dangerous aura. As he neared the gates, Baki appeared in front of him. With him was his sibling. The boy gave the Jonin a glare as the two stood facing each other. What do you want? Gaara demanded. Where do you believe that you're going, Gaara? Baki asked. To the desert, until the finals begin. Gaara answered. Baki, Kankuro, and Temari looked at him with shock. That Uchiha kid that much of a problem for you? Kankuro asked. Gaara threw him a glare before facing Baki again. I don't care about the Uchiha. My targets are Uzumaki and Maidoshi. They will prove my existence, and I must prepare to kill them. The Uchiha is only a stepping stone. Gaara said and continued on his way out of the village. The three looked at his back and watched him go. Baki only sighed in frustration while the other two siblings were surprised. I didn't think that he would ever take training seriously. He must really fear these two if he's training. Temari commented. Maidoshi, I can understand. That chick is not stable. The blonde kid, I don't see anything that is too threatening to Gaara. Kankuro said. This is the same guy who sealed off your chakra and defeated you in the prelims. Temari said with a mocking grin. Kankuro growled at her, but didn't say anything. He has a right to be worried. If that blonde should ever learn about Gaara's tenant, he may be able to seal him off. Baki said softly. The other two did not really think about that. Baki turned to his other two charges. Temari, follow Gaara and stay with him. Temari was about to argue, but was stopped when Baki handed her a scroll. What's this? Temari asked. There are 2 techniques that I expect you to learn within the month. You are to also improve on your other techniques. Baki said. Are you telling me to be cautious about this guy? Temari asked. Yes, now go. He said. Temari shrugged and made her way to catch up to Gaara. Baki turned to Kankuro. Since you lost, we will have to find another way for you to participate in the operation. Return to Suna and await further instructions. Kankuro nodded and made his way out of the village away. Baki turned back toward the center of the village. He had to meet up with someone before he could return to Suna. XXX. So you are in the finals, Shino? Do you wish for me to train for the exams? Shibi asked his son. He had come to him at lunch and asked for training. While Shino would have been content with Kurena's training, he felt that something was very off about Sai. He was a dangerous person, plain and simple. Yes, father. The opponent I will be facing will not be an easy victory. Shino said to him. Very well, prepare yourself. I will not be holding back against you. Shibi said. Understood. XXX. So you are up against the Ibarame boy? He is quite skilled from what I have seen. Danzo said. Yes, I also suspect that he is aware of my true skills. I just get that feeling for him, Danzo Dono. Sai said. Is that so? Perhaps I have misjudged this class. Either way, Torun, Danzo called out to the shadows. A man covered with a robe and had on a mask appeared from the shadows. You will be training Sai for the month. Do what you must to prepare him for the coming battle. Understood, Danzo Dono. He said. The 2 Ni-Root disappeared and left the old ninja alone. XXX. Lee stood in front of his student with excitement. Alright, Lee, this is the moment that you have been waiting for. We will show all of Konoha what the power of hard work can do. Guy exclaimed. Yes, sir. We will show our glorious flames to the village and to Neji. I can't wait. The young look-alike said with equal excitement. Lee. Guy sensei. The 2 hugged and the sun settled behind them with waves crashing. Lucky for their team they were doing something better. XXX. Kakashi was breathing a little heavily. He realized that he was out of shape and that was something that made him feel a little down. He made a note in the back of his mind to contact Anko for some training. Knowing her, she would love to kick him in the ass for the time that he messed with her. He turned his focus back to cliff and used one of the 8 gates to fly up the cliff face. He reached the top and let out a sigh of relief. He pulled himself to the top and rested. As he took a few deep breaths, he moved his lone eye to look to his right. Well, how long have you been here? Kakashi asked. It doesn't matter. When do we begin training? Sasuke asked with a tone. Kakashi just sighed and scratched his head. He wondered why he couldn't get a respectful student. Sasuke, Sakura, and Sai were just too troublesome to deal with. That's it for this part. If you enjoyed it, then like, share and subscribe for the next video as it's going to be more interesting, and also check out my other playlists. Hope you would like them too.